This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome aboard once more with just another afternoon's game drive here in Kenya in the Maasai Mara. And here we are looking at some elephants just happily moving through the brush. It's a lovely 80 degrees Fahrenheit, around 30 degrees centigrade. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and we've got Archie on the camera. Welcome aboard once more. This is Safari Live, and please join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. We'd love to have your comments and your questions, and we'll make it as interactive as possible. Now, these elephants have just moved off a little bit into the brush, so we might head off as well along the road. We are heading towards the airstrip, and I think we're going to try and follow up and see if we can find some of the hyenas that have been hanging in the area. But it's normally full of plains game, and after that then we'll head down towards the river and just go along the river a little bit, and then maybe later, when it's a bit cooler, we'll try and see if we can find some of the lions. So I hope you're all happy with that plan, and let's get out and on the move and see what the bush holds for us today. All right. So I hope you all had a lovely Christmas, and your stomachs have gone down after all the eating. I'm sure the lions have also had their fair share of digesting that they've had to do with that hippo that they ate, with that marsh breakaway pride. Okay, so I'm going to slowly make my way towards the airstrip, and we'll see what we can find over there. But in the meantime, let's send you over to Taylor, who would love to say hello.
I'd always like to say hello. I just like to talk in general. Hello, everybody. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Manu. And we have not found any animals just yet. We've seen lots of grass and trees, but that is of course going to change at some point during the afternoon. When? I'm not so sure, rather sooner than later. So, to try and increase our chances this afternoon of actually finding any animals, we're going to go to the marsh. How does that sound, Manu? The magic Mara marsh. It is so lovely down there. There are always lots of things to see, lots of birds. We know that's where the elephants are at the moment. Jackal pups maybe, black rhino, and hopefully lions. So I think that's what we shall try for this afternoon. We'll try and do all of those animals. We're lucky enough. So we'll head down in that direction. What I am going to focus on at some point, we'll check the area twice if we don't succeed the first time around, is of course to see if we can find those jackal pups, because I'm a little bit worried now that maybe they have dispersed. They were getting to that age where they were packing their bags, getting ready to leave home for good. So maybe that time has already come. But we'll keep searching around, and hopefully we'll be able to see them. Now, for those of you who have stumbled across Safari Live for the first time, a big welcome to all of you. You can actually talk to us, because this is happening right now in the Mara Triangle, and then in a little bit our team in South Africa will also be joining the safari too, so from two different locations in Africa, which is quite cool. And you can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Now, this particular area we're driving through has been very quiet over the last few weeks, in fact. Not much in the grassland. I mean, I remember when I first arrived, there was just zebra and wildebeest everywhere. Buffalo and elephants, lots of lion, plenty of secretary birds. Even the secretary birds have fizzled out. They used to be all over. Or they could just be hunting in the tall grass and I can't see the tops of their feathers. So that's a possibility too. But that type of thing happens. Animals sort of naturally rotate their paddocks, if you will. I suppose this is their land, this is where they eat, except no post. This area gets a bit more rain we'll find that the animals will move on into. It's kind of this cycle where they all just move around one another and feed in different areas. That is so funny. Joy in Hong Kong, you just made my day with that comment. You said, has Maurice, it's a bit dark in there, hey Manu, should we bring him out? You said, has Maurice had a bit too much apple juice and is now sleeping right off on the drive? I feel like that's either that or he's just loved Christmas so much, it was his first Christmas, that he never wants to stop wearing his Santa hat. I reckon it's probably the fact that he doesn't want to take his Santa hat off. It's like his Santa pajamas. But that was very funny. Thank you for that. We put those sunglasses down there. So, yes, Maurice had a great time last night celebrating Christmas. Got wrapped up in tinsel. Did all sorts of exciting things. Played games. But yeah, it was fantastic. It was so nice to have everybody. The sundowners were beautiful. I forgot that I showed you the sundowners, so I should tell you how it was. It was stunning. It was really, really magical. It was perfect. The wind died down and it wasn't freezing cold. So that was quite nice. All the guests loved it too. They were all very happy. A lot of them looked quite tired. I think they'd been out for all-day safaris. So they didn't stay too long. Just a quick little hello, a cheers here and there. And then we went back to camp, where we had a barbecue. We had barbecue. What did we have? No, we didn't. We had curry. We had curry, yeah. Chapatis. So yeah, we had a great time last night. We all annoying each other enough, hey Manu, to be like family. But that's our plan for now, and we're not too far away from the marsh. It's just a bit tiring going through this area where there's nothing. There's not even an elephant, not even a bird to show you, except the ones that very quickly dart across the road and land on the grass. So I'm going to send you into Rolf's vehicle, and hopefully he's got a mammal to show you. And I'm going to guess, I think he's going to see elephants next.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, but you guessed wrong. We're watching a couple of buffalo doing what they do best, ruminating in the shade, taking the afternoon off. They've probably spent the good part of the morning walking around grazing, and now they need to spend their time ruminating in the shade. And it is a good day for it. You can see the heat haze coming through there. It's quite hot. So the animals are a little bit lethargic for the time being. Until that sun starts to dip a little bit, everybody is seeking shelter in the shade. It's a couple of bulls, these two buffalo, quite happily chewing away on the cud. And a couple of the butterflies flitting past there. Looks like brown-veined whites, and some of them are also orange-tipped whites. There's the odd yellow pansy coming through too. Nice to see the different colors. There's the yellow pansy. A lovely scene, and the nice lazy culture of the afternoon buffalo. Always flitting the ears, keeping the flies away. Now, Mia, you're wondering why some buffalo don't live in herds. Well, Mia, it's very often the older males or the older bulls that get left behind by the herd, and then they do stay in small little groups, and normally of males of similar age. So they do have a little bit of safety with one or two of them being together. Sometimes they can be alone, sometimes they can be with groups up to 5 or even 10 of them, but it is those older bulls that generally get left behind by the herd, and that's when you find them in smaller groups or on their own. Normally they would be moving with the herd. It's only once they get a bit older and a bit slower and a bit grumpy that they get left behind. So that's your answer there, Mia. But normally, yes, absolutely, you're quite correct. They should be moving in groups. Sankit, you're wondering if any of the locals drink buffalo milk? That's an interesting question. I've never heard of any locals drinking buffalo milk, or any of the other wild animals' milk, I think it would be quite a challenge to milk a buffalo. I'd actually be really interested in seeing somebody try to do that, but no, as far as I know, there's nobody that drinks buffalo milk. I think for the pure reason that it would be quite dangerous to actually milk them. Within captivity, I still think that it wouldn't be a very easy task, but I don't know if there's anybody that's ever even done it. I'm sure there has been, but I haven't read of it or seen it or anything like that, so it's something that is quite foreign to me. Buffalo milk. We do get zebra meat, we get impala meat, wildebeest or gnu. There is the odd buffalo meat. I have had some buffalo meat, but it's not something that's common enough that I think has been put on burgers. But I'm sure there are some restaurants around that will do it. I have had some dried meat of buffalo, and I've had quite a wide range of animals, tasted their meat, and obviously it's one of the more these farmers and people that breed wild game, the more financial input they get for that, the more that they can achieve with their game farms. And obviously these animals are still bred wild, so the meat is very lean, it's very healthy, and it does increase the wilderness areas if we assist the farmers that are doing that. It does seem a better angle for me than cattle and cows, sheep and goats, because these areas that they then frequent are pretty much destroyed by overgrazing, and we'd much rather have wild animals around, but that is a big debate that I'm sure we don't want to open up too much, because I'm sure there'll be all sorts of opinions, and everybody's opinion counts on whether we should be farming wild animals or not. I'm not going to get into that argument now. Did here minus 41 degrees centigrade. If that is indeed correct, that is extremely cold. 41 degrees centigrade, Brent. Well, better you than me. The worst I've been is minus 18, and that was in France. And I tried to phone home to South Africa, and because it was so cold, I couldn't put the telephone to my ear, otherwise it would have stuck to my ear, and that was, so you're sitting with more than double the coldness that I sat with, and that for me was too much. But no, it is a lovely day here, and I just wanted to come and see if we could just poke our noses through this croton thicket, because there is a lot of hippos here in the river, but I don't know if Archie's going to be able to use his skills. There's some over there, Archie. We could maybe start with them and have a look at those hippos. Maybe just turn a little bit. There's some there, hey? Alright, let's have a look at those. So, we are here back on the Mara River, and there seems to be a very big group of hippos a little bit further upstream from this individual that we're looking at now, but it's quite heavily vegetated, so it's a little bit difficult to see through the thickets, but you might hear them, and in a minute I might try and get a better position. Alright folks, so I'm going to try my best to get our nose stuck in through the bushes here so that we can have a lovely look at this big group of hippos. But in the meantime, let's go over to Taylor and see what she's been able to find in the meantime.
I'm like a proud mother, Ralph, because I've found my jackal pups. Of course, they're not my jackal pups, they are nature's jackal pups. But there they are in the long grass. I've missed you guys. I haven't seen you for the last few days. I can only see 3 at the moment, but that's not to say that the 4th one isn't around. And they're on the hunt. They are practicing their hunting skills at the moment, where they will be searching for a number of different things. Most likely grasshoppers at the moment, though, at this age. Anything that's too slow. And that one, actually on the far left, Manu, seems to be doing a very good job at finding things, because it keeps running and pouncing. There we go, it did. It got something. You saw it clamping its jaws. Nom, 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 nom. Grasshopper. Delicious. Look at that. Have you ever seen such an excited jackal before? And I feel like every single time we see them, their coats are getting so much darker too. Now, James, you're wondering if it is normal for a jackal to have 4 pups. They can have up to 6, but I'd say about 2 or 3 is probably the most common amount of pups to have. So this is, they're so keen. Now, normally the ideal times for jackals to go hunting is early morning and late in the evening, or just as the sun sets, typically during those crepuscular periods when you'll find that the rodents are most active, or just starting to become active. And sorry, I thought I heard something. That was a very dramatic pause. I thought that I heard a distress call, but it wasn't. I don't think it was, otherwise Faith is panicking. She's about to press all sorts of buttons, worrying that she'd lost me. No, that was me. I promise I won't do that again to give everybody a fright. So basically what I was saying is that because they are so young, they are going to be going after insects a lot more. There we go. See, they're using the kind of the technique that southern ground hornbills use, that secretary birds use, and trying to flush insects or prey from underneath their feet. So you see them walking and try and get it. And they can walk in a straight line. They might turn back and double back again. So there's no strict pattern to this type of hunting technique, but it's an efficient one. I think for these species, they're all sprinting around. It's so funny. For these youngsters, I think they're still relying on mom and dad to feed them for quite a bit, for a bit more sustenance, because they're looking very healthy. And I think that as they start to get older, they'll get a bit better and they'll start going for bigger things. Maybe they'll start venturing a little bit further away. You can see, look how full their bellies are. Now, to me, that's not a belly that's filled with just grasshoppers. I feel like there's a little bit more. Wendy, you've said that this has made your day. It has made mine too. I was really sad that I wasn't going to see my little jackal pups again. I thought, oh, they've gone. They've left home. But they haven't. They're still around here. They're just being a little bit more adventurous. So what I was going to say, because I lost my trail of thought about, this being an effective way of feeding. They're not really having to conserve too much energy, so they can spend it out and about during the heat of the day. You did see that they were quite hot. They were panting. There you go, another insect in the back. Tree just resting and going out when they know they've got a better chance and when they're not going to be using as much energy. But these youngsters need to practice all they can. And of course, insects are most active during the day, so it's an ideal time for these young jackal pups to learn. And you see that. So not just using their eyesight, also listening, because that one just dived in and grabbed a little insect. Go, 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 jackal pup, you can do it. Chasing after. You catch it. Look. Oh no. Wait, it's still going. It made the kill. It successfully got it. No ways. That was amazing. Sorry, Manu. Oh, that was incredible. Look, look, look. Well done. It was one of those massive locusts. That's exciting. When you see young jackal pups, that thing dashed for about 100 meters easily after that locust. It was not letting it get away. But that was a good meal, though. Those locusts are so long. They're about half the length of my hand. I haven't got the biggest hand, so I'd say maybe like 10 centimeters or so in length. Maybe a little bit more than that. So it'll be nice and tasty for them. And we know how nutritional grasshoppers and caterpillars and all those types of things are. Right. Going back to the starting point now. Oh no. Very engaged. So what I was trying to say before I got the giggles is that they use a combination of senses. Obviously, they're using their eyesight when they're doing that walking technique and flashing things out of the grass. But when a grasshopper shoots out the grass, you often hear that, I don't know, it's like a rattling. It's this interesting sound that their wings make, or it's their legs rubbing against one another. And if they hear that, those jackals will turn in an instinct. And I think that's what happened there, is that it heard it and then just spotted it and then chased it down. Very, very incredible to see the development of these young jackal pups. I think we were going to see that today. I didn't. Brent, you're wondering, what is a jackal's cry called? I don't know. A howl? Maybe does it howl? They make a strange, weird noise. That probably wasn't a jackal, that sound I was just making. I think I sounded more like a trumpet or hornbill there. Well done. Okay, you can all help me out. What do you think we should call, what is there a name given for the sound that a jackal makes? I would imagine it'd be howling or something like that, or yelping. Hashtag Safari Live, let us know. Or maybe you can come up with something better to describe the wailing noise of a black-backed jackal in the evening. This little guy is going to be a very successful hunter one day. I mean, I know it's just insects, but the amount of times that it has made an attempt and actually successfully caught something is quite good. But very hot, though. They're going to be exhausted. They're going to sleep very well tonight, I think. No. Angela, you're wondering how big is that pup? Well, yes, there we go. Did too. Well done, little jackal pup. I'm just trying to think. They're not big. They're actually quite small. They're smaller than a Jack Russell. I would say they're about the size of a Jack Russell puppy that's about maybe 8 or 9 months old. Maybe a bit bigger than that. They wouldn't weigh very much. Very, very far away from us. Now, we'll come back later, because now they're dipping behind the tall grass and the termite mounds, which is going to make it very difficult for us to see. So we'll pop past here a little bit later to carry on watching the jackals. Very cool. Right, now Ralph has had a variety of animals to start off his drive. I wonder if he's got another new one to add to the list.
Yes, thanks, Taylor. Not just yet. We still with the hippos, and it would be rude for us to have left this area with a very big pod of hippos just a little bit out of our view without trying to get a better position, and a better position we have found. So we're now sitting nice and close to this group, and we've got a nice elevated position. And what better for us to do on a it's gives you that swimming pool feeling. I would say it's always nice for me when we go and sit next to the river when it's very hot and watch the hippos. They're all taking their breaths and then almost hanging out more underwater than on top. It's probably to do with the heat. Nice and cool under the water. And you can just hear their exhalations and their inhalations before they go under. You see a little bit of splurts of air as well as they blow out or exhale. A little bit of a shake of the ears, getting the water out before they go under again. Francis, you're wondering if there's any crocs here. I haven't been able to spot any just yet. And I was busy trying to count this group of hippos, but it's quite difficult when they keep going underwater, and then they pop back up again and you can't remember if you've counted them or not. But what I have been able to establish is that there are at least 30 of them here, but there could be quite a few more. And further upstream there is another big pod, but this one being nice and visible to us. So with them being territorial bulls that protect their sort of little ponds within the river, I would imagine this is one territorial bull's arena, and further upstream is probably another different territory playing out here. Now, Ben, you're wondering if the hippos are at any danger from the crocs. Not particularly, no. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking for a little baby, but mommy takes very good care of them, and they normally are fine. And no, crocodiles generally give hippos a wide berth because hippos can also do some nasty damage to crocodiles, and I think they know that. So they seem to live in the same river in relative harmony, and they don't really bother each other too much. I haven't seen too many problems between hippos and crocs, and it's like they've been sharing the same kind of water sources for thousands and thousands of years. So they generally seem to be quite happy with each other's presence, and they don't attack each other. Obviously, sometimes when there are crocodiles busy attacking plains game or the hooved animals when they're trying to cross, the hippos can sometimes get involved, and very often to protect the hooved animal that's being attacked by the croc. So they do seem to be on the side of the herbivores as opposed to that of the carnivores, and it's quite similar to that with the elephants. When they see lions, and especially when they see them on the hunt or chasing something, they very often get involved and try and chase the lions away. And even if the lions do make a kill, the elephants can very often come through and try and chase them off it as well. So it does seem to be that correlation between herbivores and carnivores, and the herbivores not really liking the carnivores hanging around. Now, speaking of carnivores, let's put you over to Taylor, who I believe has found a lovely different carnivore for you.
Finally, it's about time. Actually, we didn't have to go too far. We saw some heads popped above the tall grass, and here we go. We've got lions, but now we need to play that game where we have to try and figure out who on earth are these big cats. And, it's a tough one. They're in the area that the marsh breakaways like, but they also could be the Ngamas. And I have a feeling that this is the Ngama pride. And the reason why I say this is because we know we saw that lioness with very young cubs moving into the forest. Although, I don't know, to try and figure out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lions that we can see. And it's not to say that there aren't any more. I'm just having another scan, just to make sure that I haven't missed any others. Or at least some that have got their heads poking out the grass. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I think that this is the Ngama pride. But hopefully they'll get moving, and if they do get up, well, they might lead us to some more lions, maybe. Warm, so they must be hungry if they're sitting out here looking for something to eat. And I know that the Ngamas like to hunt, and normally around mid-morning, actually, between about 10 and 12 o'clock. This is what a lot of the guides say, is that they tend to do most of their killing at times that, we would say are not necessarily favorable for lions. Now, both Manu and I are swiveling around in our chairs, trying to figure out what on earth this lioness is looking at. She looks like she's hunting us. She's staring straight down towards us, but she's not. She's not interested in us at all. Must be something behind us, but we've come from that area. No, I wonder there has to be something here. Hey, Manu? I'm just checking again with my binoculars in the grass. I was demanding from the animals that I'd like to see some action today, and I said I think we need them to do the talking, and it seems like they may just do exactly that. Is she going to walk over to this termite mound, I wonder? Maybe she's going to try and dig some pigs out. I still can't figure out what they're looking at, but you can see it's definitely got the attention of all the other lions. So there's definitely 4 adult lionesses, and then there's 2 sub-adults of what I'm not so sure. I can't see anything, Manu. It just goes to show, though, how incredible their eyesight is, that I can't pick out what on earth she's going after. Shelly, you said that she's absolutely beautiful. They all are. Look at them, Manu. They're streaming in now. Just want to very quickly show you how these cats have picked up. This is what Honey. She's actually slunk down quite a bit. Manu, let me reposition for us. She's just stopping on the edge of the grass, and what I'm going to do is I just want to go backwards quickly. There was another vehicle here. I can't believe that they've left. They just needed to be there. Pigs. Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much, Faith. So there are the warthogs. There's what the lion was looking at. And it was very clever what they're doing. They're trying to move as quickly as possible through the tall grass. See how that pig is now? Are you going to go in? Oh, don't make that mistake. Don't go into your burrow. That is not going to be a good move for you. And in it goes. Wanting to. And they've got a bit of short grass that they've got to get through. So I think they're trying to get through that long stuff as quick as possible. Oh no. They're all going in. Now, we know warthogs reverse into their burrows so that they can face their predators with their tusks. But it's a problem when you've got so many lions coming towards you. There's one lioness, you won't be able to see her. Maybe you will. And there's another girl. I think look at the position of the car is just a bit strange, but she's actually going to go around the other side of the vehicle. So this is quite interesting. But they're still quite far away. I mean, something like this, it could happen in a second, but it could also take a little bit longer. So before we do an action broadcast, let's let these cats get into position. Let's give them some time to settle. Oh. It's all happening this afternoon. How exciting! Boxing Day surprise. Wendy, you're wondering if what lion disadvantage to the warthogs and advantage to the lions going after inexperienced animals. A lot easier to catch. Not necessarily a big meal though. Come on, girls, move on in. They're lagging a little. Those warthogs have all gone into the burrow. Okay, I think. Oh, you see how she sat down there? I'm just listening to see if there's any other sounds, if there's any birds that have given the lion's presence away. But it doesn't look like it just yet. But they'd all disappeared. There you go, another one. She's coming up. She's going to use the car to her advantage. Now, there's plenty of room around us. So these cats have got all the best spots to go to. And there was that one lioness, she's gone behind the car now. She's actually heading towards the longer grass. So I think what she's going to do is come from the left-hand side of that barrel behind us, and then eventually swoop around. See how the grass gets tall around here? That might be a good idea. And then she could be the distraction and actually spook the warthogs into running towards this lioness that's sitting in front of the car. And she'll just sit there waiting before she leaps out of the grass. I think that's what's going to happen, but they of course could change their hunting techniques. I'm starting to see quite a few rufous-naped larks and cisticulars and things popping out of the grass, so they're quite chatty birds. And that's what I was saying. I was waiting for one of them to give an alarm call to see what goes on. Nesses are always on a mission, especially hungry cats like this. Faith, what is the temperature today, please, if I may have that? Because it feels like it's very hot. I'm going to guess and say it's about 27 or 28 degree Fahrenheit. Not Fahrenheit, Celsius, sorry. It's quite warm. Woo! I win! It is 28. It's hot today. So, those pigs don't want to go back into their burrows. It must be boiling down underground. They'd prefer to be laying out in a wallow, but I think they're suspecting that something is going on. There's a very gentle breeze, which of course makes hunting conditions for lions quite difficult. You see, they're looking towards that in the direction of that one lioness. So they might have not necessarily seen her. Maybe they saw a flash of something. And now they're just a bit on the nervous side. I'm still waiting for this other girl to creep past the car, but she hasn't yet. I'm keeping an eye out on her. Now, Heron, you're wondering if the piglets could outrun the lionesses. Well, at the moment, there's not actually any very, very young warthog piglets. They seem to be fairly grown up, and no youngsters. So they're going to have a bit of experience on their side. So it could be a bit tricky for these lions. However, you're quite correct in saying, well, not quite correct. A little piglet can, if it wants to. Well, not if it wants to. If it tries its absolute best, it can get away. But it's the inexperience that lets that piglet down. It's not necessarily that it's not fast enough. It's just that they don't know what to do and they panic. And often when you watch piglets being separated from their mothers, they don't know what to do. They stop running and then they're not quick enough. They haven't got that momentum going. Remember, with lions, I think the best thing to do is just keep going, because they can't keep sprinting for a very long time. So eventually they're going to have to give up. And the piglet just might take the wrong turn and do the wrong thing and then unfortunately get caught by the lion. But they are super quick. Very, very, very quick. Oh, there's the other lioness. Look how quickly she came around. So she's done exactly that. I think, Faith, if we can, I'm just going to see here. We're probably going to do a live action broadcast, everybody, just so that you are aware. And then I'm going to shout, go, go, go. Not yet, though, just now. They're just still too far away that this could all go belly up for them. Okay, let's go live. Let's do it. Welcome everybody to this live action broadcast. We're sitting in the Mara Triangle in the heart of Kenya, watching a lioness snake through the long golden grass, and she is after some warthogs this afternoon. There have been about 3 or 4 of them popping up and down the grass, and there's a couple of lions who are hot on their tail following her. I think the warthogs are a little bit to the right. Now, if you've never joined us on a live action broadcast before, you can actually chat to us. All you have to do is comment away, and you can see that these warthogs are a little bit nervous this afternoon. They know that something is up. They know that something is after them. Whether they've smelt the lions, whether they've heard the lions, I'm not so sure. We, of course, are sitting back from the distance watching them. Come on, girl, you can still make this work. She's so far away. And it seems as though those pigs are on the move now. It looks like they're running far into the distance. You can just see she's watching them. They should have made their move a little bit sooner. But panicking warthogs can often be a great surprise for lions, because... Now, Donna, you're wondering 10 to 20 meters of their prey to have a really, really good chance at catching something. But of course it takes great skill to sneak up to your prey like that. So sometimes what they will do, and what's happened here this afternoon, is that these lions have used a different type of hunting strategy. So one has gone round, and I think her idea was to try and get behind those pigs before they darted past her, and to chase them to another lioness that was waiting not too far away from where we're sitting. But unfortunately, the big cats are not the most successful of hunters, even though they do work in teams, which does help them. It seems as though the warthogs have won the battle today and have managed to escape the claws of the lions. But they could try and re-stalk them again a little bit later. It's very, very hot out here today, so the very hungry ladies. But that's it, I'm afraid, for now. These warthogs have moved on, and there doesn't seem to be any more prey in the area, so these girls are going to have to get together and move out and try. Sorry, I didn't close that very well. Yeah, hello again everybody. That was unfortunate, wasn't it? Those lions? Yeah, I think this is the Ngama pride. I'm just starting to see lots of big sub-adult lions popping up, and I know that there aren't any other prides in the area that have such grown-up lions in the pride, other than the 4 lioness and the 13 cubs that they have. Otherwise, it would be quite dangerous if there was all of a sudden a new pride that had moved in over here. But it's not all of them, though. This pride seems very split up, so perhaps some of them have been left at home. Faradin, you're wondering if warthogs are the same size as wild pigs. I don't think I've ever seen a wild boar before. I suppose I have. I have seen bush pigs. See a male over 100 kilograms. I mean, I've told you the story of the warthog with a broken leg and how massive it was, and it was the length of my entire body from the tip of its snout to its back legs stretched out. It was a huge pig, and it weighed over 100 kilograms. I was in the Eastern Cape too, so they can get quite big, about 55, 60 kilograms. There's some big girls out here too. But that was a decent attempt for these lions. I think they were a bit slow though. They could have made their move a bit quicker. They should have actually charged on in when those warthogs were in the burrow, and then I think they would have had a much better chance that they had made by going into the burrow, and then very quickly corrected themselves and raced off towards the marsh where the elephants are. But maybe they'll restalk them, which would be quite exciting. So we'll try and stick with these girls for a bit. Manu and I are just going to go and try and find some shade now. Off we go back across to Ralph, who I don't think is too far away from where I am.
Coming into a little bit of the plains area, and yesterday we did see towards the end of the drive that marsh breakaway pride had moved across from the marsh back into the area that I had first come across them, near to this little drainage line. So I'm heading in that direction, but with no real mission in mind, just maybe to see the lions potentially, but we'll stop for everything along the way. We're seeing a lot of buffalo around that are full of mud and glistening and shining in the light because of the heat. They've all been wallowing, quite similar to that with the hippos staying underwater. Here's one here. Let's stop and have a look. Grazing through. We've got a nice little scene here in front of us. Off to the right we've got elephants, off to our left we've got some buffalo, and behind the buffalo there's some more elephant, looks like some zebra. There's all sorts. So good just to stop and scan every now and then, see what's around. But it's one of those afternoons, it's quite eerily quiet with the heat that you've got almost coming off the ground as well. And of course the odd Cape turtle or ringneck dove calling. And the starlings, they're very often the birds that call during the day. So Archie, let's have a look over there, over towards the escarpment. A nice herd of elephants moving through. A nice setting this as well. The background with the escarpment there, the Olololo escarpment, still a mouthful. But I'm getting used to the word now, saying it quite regularly. So those elephants, you can see obviously also with the heat, a lot of flapping of the ears. Yesterday there wasn't that much at all. When it was cooler and there was the rain around and those little ones were playing, and the ears were only being moved in the little games of trying to make themselves look bigger, but they were quite happy with the temperature, I would say. But even now you see them moving out in the direct sunlight and sunshine, and that radiator of theirs. Thanks for your comment and saying that that's a very beautiful view. I agree 100%. And with the elephants in it, and you can see that heat haze a little bit off the grass. It's a warm afternoon, but I don't think it should be hot for too much longer as the sun starts to dip. There is quite a number of cumulus clouds around, so there is always the potential for a little bit of rain. But yesterday we were dodging in between the clouds and a bit of the rain, and we managed to stay dry. And later on in the evening, it seemed to clear up, so we didn't get wet at all. But yeah, this is a very nice little spot. But I think we're going to continue along a little bit. Go and head next to the drainage line. There's a big treed area there as well. So maybe some of the animals hiding up in the shade. I'm still looking for my first leopard in the Mara. So who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. So Yes, and I'm sure that Taylor brought you up to speed. We had a lovely Christmas dinner with all the staff, and it was fire with a big circle of chairs. It was fantastic. Really great to see. We were invited by the lodge to join with their guests on their sundowner drink, so that was very nice of them. Now, Jenny, you're wondering how big approximately is the average elephant. Jenny, we normally say, elephants can get up to between 6,000 and 8,000 kilograms, which would then be, that's over 10,000 pounds, well over 10,000 pounds. But I would say that average of about 10,000 pounds probably being the right sort of average, and the average you would also say normally a medium-sized female, because they do sort of dominate as probably the most numerous of all the elephants, and then you've got the bigger bulls and obviously the youngsters as well. So making that average, I would say at about 10,000 pounds. Size-wise, it's probably the size of a little bit taller than a Land Rover 110 Defender, but pretty much the length, I'd say, of that. Or if you could say like a Ford pickup with the canopy at the back, something like that, but quite a bit taller then. Probably another 2 yards or so taller than a Ford pickup. But not a Ford F350. I think a F350 would probably be more in line with like a big bull. But maybe it makes sense in your local vehicle currency. Sorry for the bumps. It's obviously here next to the drainage lines. It's a little bit bumpy, especially once it gets wet and people drive through, and it makes lots of holes and starts to get a bit bumpy. So you do see the camera shake a little bit there, but Archie's doing his best to hold on as per usual, doing a very good job of it. Surfing in the back there. And that's something else that is obviously a big part of the skills that we teach to students and prospective guides. We've got the walking side of things where you don't really need to teach people how to walk. You do teach them many different and new techniques that they would use in the bush. But the obvious level of skill of being able to walk has been gained through many years of doing that wherever you've been in the world. But with driving, it's quite a very big part of training guides, because especially in 4x4 areas, very, very important to be able to teach the guides to drive the vehicle. Firstly, that you don't break the vehicle. Secondly, that you don't destroy the roads where you're driving. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, that the people in the back are comfortable and that the guests would be quite happy. Now, in the situation that we're in here, we're not necessarily making sure that the people in the back are comfortable, because it's a cameraman and he's quite well trained in the art of surfing on the back of a Land Rover. So I can drive a little bit harder than I would normally with actual guests inside, sitting inside the vehicle. I know we've got the biggest game viewer in the world with the camera, but you're not physically sitting in the back of the vehicle. So I can drive a little bit faster. I can go through bigger holes and climb up bigger inclines and things that I wouldn't normally do with a packed vehicle of guests. Now, Mia, you're wondering if some guides roll their vehicles or their cars in the bush. Mia, it is one of those worrying things that it has happened, and I'm sure it will happen in the future as well. But that's where we talk about the training of guides and teaching guides that, especially in wet weather, understand what a 4x4 vehicle can do and how it works. So we go into the integral parts of differential locks and low range gear utilization and knowing when to use these different tools. For me, one of the biggest skills that needs to be obtained from any guide driving in 4x4 areas. Once you know which gear you need to use before you get into it, comes with wet weather and if road. When it's very wet, what happens is the tread on the tires, it becomes smooth because of the mud that is clay, and so they're almost like slicks. And if you don't have enough momentum to get up to the top of the hill, you can start sliding back, or you're not going to make it all the way to the top. So what happens then is the guide normally puts brakes on to stop. But when you're on a muddy hill, it's like you're on a hill where there's like some sleet or mushy snow that you will slide regardless of how your tires are locked. So he starts to slide backwards and then obviously just tries to turn or tries to drive again, and that obviously will result in him rolling. The only thing you can do in that situation is to actually put it into reverse and to go in reverse but backwards, because that will keep your vehicle straight. If you try and go forward, if you're not going to go forward and make it up with your slick tires, the only thing to do is to bang it into reverse and to actually reverse out of there. But that for me is where you have the biggest amount of guides rolling their vehicle. Now, Richard, you're asking if I can explain the term bundu bashing. Well, we call bundu is like the bush, it's like the wild, it's actually off-piste or off-road, and that is going through the branches, going through the vegetation, not on the well-worn track. And so then bashing, bundu bashing, normally added to the fact that there's probably some rocks and some branches and bushes, etc., and so you're going through all of that. That would for me be a go through there, but it's not an amazing bundu bashing session because there's not too much thick territory, and when the wild dogs take you on a wild goose chase, that's generally what you do, is bundu bash and try and keep up with them. Sometimes with the leopard as well, it's a little bit easier with the leopard, but when the wild dogs are on the move, and I think Noel can tell you the perfect art of bundu bashing. I see Tristan's quite good at it as well, but yeah, there's not too much space for bundu bashing here in the Mara. We're also not allowed on this side to be going off the road, and then when it is allowed to go off the road, it's very much just grassland, and so it's not as sensitive. But now, Sanket, you're wondering why an elephant is described as the largest land mammal and not a giraffe. What defines it? Well, an elephant is not as tall as a giraffe, but he's a lot heavier than a giraffe. So it's difficult. If you're looking at a definition of largest, we'd probably say, I mean, then you could say the big. The real definition, yes, the giraffe is the tallest living. The elephant definitely the heaviest by far. So I think that's where the definition then comes in. The ones of old, there are still a few around, not many, but just one of their tusks was well over 100 kilograms. So it just puts it into perspective. And giraffe, you're looking at maybe around 5,000 pounds. So an elephant more than doubles that. So they are, you know, in terms of weight and sheer body size, they are a lot bigger than giraffe, but giraffe do stand way taller. Hearing the afternoon birds calling still. What's that up in the tree there? Okay, folks, while we just get this view of this, looks like a vulture there up in the tree overlooking the escarpment, we are going to be just doing some technical fixer-uppers in the background, just for a brief little short while. So while we're doing that and the tech team gets on it as quickly as possible, we're going to send you over to the mountain cam, and we'll be back shortly.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sunset Safari. Sorry about that, but some technical duties needed to be done in order to improve the broadcast, and hopefully we've got rid of the gremlins. They're just so entertaining. And who doesn't want to watch jackals? I surely do, that's for sure. And it's quite exciting seeing them dash after all the insects as they leap into the air. I must admit, they're working very, very hard. I don't know if I'd have the energy to go around. What have you got? And constantly keep chasing after things. They're jumping up and getting something. I wonder. Looks like there was something on top of that peak. Stay in the short grass. Although I do know that you've got a better chance of going in the long grass. I also like the way that they move their heads. They're trying to serpentine through all the tall grass. There we go, trotting along. See if it's going to catch anything else. I like this one. I wonder if this is the same one that was so good at catching all the grasshoppers before. It'd be nice to watch them at night, although I don't know how much work they're actually doing at night. After being busy the whole day, I'd think that they need to catch up on some sleep. And we know how long dogs and cats sleep. They do rest for very long periods every single day. Let's see if we can get another view of another one. And I can still see the lion heads. Yeah, I just saw a flash of white down there. So I know that lioness is around. Looks like she maybe just rolled. Okay, let's quickly see. Where's the next jackal? Now, there are a few more warthogs that are lying around in the wallows, but there's also some giraffe for those lions. Where are you? They were here somewhere. They might have also gone into the deep grass now, which... Can you see one? Forward. Manu has spotted one. I'm just trying to keep my eyes on... Tell me when. Still forward. How did you even see that? I still have yet to see the jackal. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, down there. Now I know what you're talking about. Goodness, they're moving. While the lion slacked and rested. But now they're just moving so far away. Now this, you know this jackal. This jackal's got a much darker coat than the others. And they'll all be exactly the same age. They're from the same group. And I suppose it'd be nice, maybe this afternoon, well, it is this afternoon, but a little bit later. I think we could get some fun with these guys coming back to the road, charging off again. Did you get it? No, didn't look like a successful attempt there. Looks like trying to sniff it out of the grass now. And what's probably happened is that grasshopper has obviously jumped and then flown, trying to leap away. And then they sit very quietly in the grass, hoping that their camouflage does the trick and conceals them. But we know that that's not always the case because the jackal's got that super sensitive nose. Right, we're going to sit around this area probably the rest of the afternoon. There's lots going on here. I'm going to send you to Rolf, who's still sitting with the elephants.
To answer Sanket's question, because he was wondering what the difference in size is between the giraffe and elephant, and what defines the elephant being larger than the giraffe. Now, looking at those, at the picture there, now don't forget that elephant is further back, so you can't really get a pit throughout the legs and the back. And there comes a giraffe in front. Now, obviously got a much longer neck, but it's not as thick and as heavy as an elephant. So remember, all mammals have got, I think it's either 7 or 9, but if I'm not mistaken, 9 vertebrae in the neck, and even giraffe have the same. It's just that theirs is much bigger, an extended vertebra. But between elephants and giraffes, elephant are hindgut fermenters, whereas giraffe are ruminants. So different in their digestion and their feeding patterns. Giraffe like to feed up on the top of the trees from the elephants, but not quite as high. Now, Ben, a drainage line or a small river, a tributary that runs into the Mara River, and all along these little river systems you'll also have forest or riverine vegetation, but then going away from that we do then head out into the plains areas, and actually in front of us we've driven around the airstrip, but very flat in front of us, and this off on the left where these giraffe and elephant are hanging around is just in a little riverine system. And as I suggested earlier, it's very hot today, so they're moving in these little zones. It's a lot cooler and a lot more lush. There is a bit of water around, so it's very comfortable for the animals down there in the shade. They can feed, they can drink, and they can continue with their daily survival, but doing it in the shade would be way more comfortable than out in the sun. So that's where I think all the animals are congregating for the moment. And the two largest of the mammals together at the same time. That's great. Now, Lajesh, you're wondering what happened to that tiny little baby elephant that had his tail cut off. Well, we've been seeing him almost every day, Archie and myself, and that little elephant seems to be doing just fine. And every time I see him, I will put him on screen and we'll stop and we'll just give an update. But there are a few around that seems to have half tails. He's the only one that seems to have the whole tail, whether it's bitten off or it's been lost due to disease or something. I'm still leaning towards crocodiles and them crossing the river and being unfortunate that the crocodile has grabbed on and then they've actually broken it off. But that little guy is doing fine. Now, Matt, you're wondering if giraffe and Ellies generally get along. Absolutely. They don't seem to have a problem with each other. I've never seen giraffe and elephant having an altercation. And if anything, it might just be a bit of a grumpy elephant and the giraffe will stay well clear of him, because giraffe are generally do the necking and smack each other about a bit, but I've never seen a giraffe being aggressive towards any other animal. Except, there's always the exception, isn't there? There was a case where we saw, when I was working in a game reserve near to the Kruger National Park, while on foot we came across a little baby impala that had been killed by a giraffe. Now, what the reasoning behind this giraffe having stomped this baby impala, and I'm sure there are the odd cases, but giraffe generally very meek animals. They're one of the slowest to come down to a waterhole because they're so scared. They can take half an hour to get to a point, and then a little dove flies past and they go back again and they start their whole little procedure again, obviously because they're so prone when they need to bend down at the waterhole to drink, that obviously they would be susceptible to being hunted by lions. But with their sheer size and height, you would think that they'd have a little bit more attitude about them. But that's giraffe for you. I don't know if you've seen the movie Madagascar. This portrayal of the giraffe in that movie, for me, is absolutely spot on, because they are very meek and mild and scared of everything, and so that character portrayal there was very good. And here we can see out on the plains, we've got a lovely amalgamation or conglomerate of all the different plains game. And behind us there's the odd zebra. So they're all out. They're starting to get a little bit more active, I would say. It's cooling off a bit. So, we're going to sit here a little bit and see what happens with all these plains game. Maybe there's a predator lying, waiting in ambush in the grass. Who knows? But in the meantime, let's go over to Taylor and see what she is up to.
Well, Ralph, we've decided to copy you this afternoon and also jump on the elephant bandwagon. But they're quite far away, just a very small group. There were like 3 of them. I think there's a little calf being swallowed by the grass at the moment. And as you can see, we of course with our lions still. We're bouncing back between the lions and the jackals and the elephant. Our giraffe have decided they don't want to be here anymore and have disappeared. I don't really blame them though, because they did have a young calf at their side, which the lions would find particularly tasty. So it's best that they move as far away from these cats as they can before the cover of darkness falls upon the Mara. But I can't believe they're just sitting out in the open. I mean, I've even had to turn the car around because I thought it was very hot. So it just goes to show you to catch dinner. Now, in this area, we obviously, we're not quite in the marsh just yet, but it's starting to turn into the marsh. So there's quite a few wet spots and wallows that we do them. She hasn't seen them yet. They're essentially from where she's sitting. They're quite far. We won't see them either now. Quite far to the right, just off the road from where we are. So maybe that burrow that first group of warthogs went to, maybe they'll all head back in that direction a little bit later. So this could be a very good hotspot. Something's annoying her though. I don't know what's biting her or stinging her. Maybe she's found some siafu ants or a bee or a wasp. Now, Sean, you're wondering if the lioness have a pecking order between one another. The more and more you sit and watch lions, I suppose it's very similar to how we as people behave. Well, that's how I like to look at it. Is that always in a group of friends, there'll be one that likes the limelight and is the attention seeker and the more dominant one amongst the rest of their friends. And things like that definitely happen out here with the wild animals too. And with lionesses, obviously it's very important that they're all on the same page and that they all have a really good relationship with one another. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to hunt successfully. So if they're constantly bickering about, you'll find that they'll have more hunts that are unsuccessful than they are successful. So there has to be some kind of hierarchy in there. That when someone says, listen up everybody, this is how it's going to go down, because you do see that with lions. I mean, I've seen it so many times. One lioness will just get up and in this particular case it was a pride of lions that I was able to watch for a few years. It was on a small private game reserve, so it was a fenced off. It wasn't like the Great Kruger or, for instance, the Maasai Mara, where the animals can roam freely. So I got to see this, I got to know each lioness, and it wasn't the oldest lioness, it was another lioness. She had a very feisty personality. She kind of reminds me of my favorite Nkuhuma cub. And every time she got her without a hint of hesitation. So I think to some extent there definitely will be one lioness that's more dominant than the others. The other example I have of this is with the big sausage tree pride. Quite a few months ago, when we were spending quite a few nights out in the bush, just before the migration ended, and it was the first time I'd seen this behavior, and I'd spoken to all of you about it, how I'd never seen lionesses marking and defending territories before. And one of the girls, it was actually the lioness with the kinky tail in the large sausage tree pride, she was marching about, and she was the only lioness of all of them that was actually scent marking. She was spraying, she was urinating, and then she was rubbing her, scraping her feet. The one that was up in front, almost as if she about animal behavior, and particularly about lions, they don't necessarily mention a typical hierarchy structure within the pride. So I suppose we live and learn, don't we? And you definitely start to see things a lot more when you watch a specific group of animals and the same group of animals constantly. You become exciting now. Is that that sort of initial phase of getting to know the characters for me is now starting to wear off, because I'm starting to identify individuals, and obviously it's quite tough with lions in particular, unless they've got something obvious like a kink in their tail or a big notch out of their ear, or they're missing their eyelid, things like that. Being able to tell the difference between the various females is particularly difficult, and does take quite some skill and patience and just lots of watching. Well, that's what's so nice, and that's why it never gets boring. It really doesn't get boring out here. Now, Mr. P, you're wondering whether these lions would eat those elephants that are in the distance. Probably not. I don't think that this pride would go for them, and also the fact that for the time that we've been here, they haven't turned their attention to the elephants. Not even a glimpse, and look over the shoulder. So they're not interested in them. Lions of course can hunt elephants, and both of those youngsters are perfect and a relatively easy size for the lions to take on. But they know that they're going to have to deal with that big elephant cow, and she's not going to tolerate those cats at all. So if they even started approaching her, she'd probably pick up on them quite quickly, because we know how elephants have got very acute hearing and sense of smell, and she would chase them around to the point where they wouldn't come back. So no, I think that they're safe for now. But when you go to places like Wangi National Park in Zimbabwe, there's pride lions there that specialize and go after elephants. So they just have adapted, I suppose. Very cool, but no warthogs just yet. I haven't seen any more heads popping out, so I think they're still enjoying their wallow. So while we wait for a warthog to make a... Let's go and see how Ralph is faring in the heat.
Detained for over the last few minutes with the yellow-billed oxpeckers climbing all over their faces and trying to get in their ears and trying to get the parasites off of them. But you can see all their ears flapping. They're trying to keep the flies away as well. And those oxpeckers are ever present. And this would be lovely food for those lions that Taylor's watching. But it seems that these lions are still not particularly specialist buffalo hunters, if what Brent says is anything to go by. Because I chatted with him and he said that they're not particularly interested in the buffalo, as far as he's seen. And so as we go over there, and just in front we've got a whole herd of impala as well. And at the back there's even some zebra. It's a lovely sight, this. Everybody just either ruminating or grazing, moving through, very quiet, very calm. We can hear the odd yellow-billed oxpecker's little zzz, zzz. It's a little bit different to that of the red-billed oxpecker, which I haven't seen any here, and I'm not sure if they occur here, but mostly what we get in Djuma is the red-billed oxpeckers, and they've got more of a chick-chirt, chick-chirt call, so slightly different to that of the yellow-billed oxpeckers. Now, Josh, you're wondering, is there a reason why all these animals, or is there a reason why they're all gathered here together? Josh, yes, absolutely. It's all around this resource of this lovely lush grass and vegetation. And with them also being in an aggregation like this of different species near to each other, you've got a lot of eyes and ears, and so it does help for predator evasion and protection, because it's very difficult for a lion to stalk up on a group of animals like this. One of them is going to either spot or hear or smell the lions, and that's why animals do like hanging around impala, because the animals do like to be around them, because they're very quick to pick up on predators. And I tell you, even if you want to try it yourself, if you're ever in a game reserve or anywhere in the world, try and sneak up on a monkey. I've tried it many times and it's nigh impossible. They will pick you up and they will let everybody else know that you're there. So it can be quite frustrating sometimes if you're trying to sneak up on it, and the monkey's forever letting the animal know that you're there, and which normally results in the animal running away. So you need to then move away from the monkeys and go and find somewhere where there aren't any, and then try your approach once more on whichever animal you were looking at getting close to. But with monkeys around, yeah, it's really difficult, and the animals know that as well, so they like to hang around them. And you'll very often find impala and baboons hanging around together. I have explained it before. Those magical relationships in the bush, because the baboons get up the trees and keep a lookout from there, and the impala from the ground. Tiny meadows, you're wondering if we get any wild dogs here because you haven't seen any in the Mara. Well, tiny meadows, I haven't seen any either, but I do believe that they do occur here, especially on the other side of the river. And in the next few days, Archie and I are going to be taking the trek over there and looking at new areas and uncharted territory for us too. So we're going to be looking for cheetah and wild dog and trying our best to get some different animals and different perspectives, and hopefully get lost many times and get stuck and all of those magical adventures. So that's what we're going to be deciding and on in the next few days, and hopefully I can bring some of those different predators to you online. But for now, we're still sitting with these beautiful plains game, and I know that Taylor has been following those predators on the other side a little bit, but we're doing a little bit of a different drive this afternoon, not chasing predators, we're just seeing whatever comes along. But for now, we've got a lot of animals to watch, which is absolutely fascinating. And you see, even with these buffalo moving almost randomly, they still are in formation. Now, Chandler, you're wondering if I've ever seen any different game playing together. Well, I have seen elephants playing with, baby elephants, obviously. I think the animals would get very scared with anything else, the older ones. But I have seen little baby elephants playing with gazelle and topi and trying to chase them off. The gazelle and the topi, they are obviously very nervous. So you can see that there is an inkling that they would like to play, but they're a little bit scared. And I've seen baby elephants doing that with quite a few animals, especially birds that come around them to try and they're actually after insects as the elephants walk through. The little baby elephants love to try and chase them and charge them, and it can be quite amusing. But you don't generally see too much play outside with the adults. It's mostly with the young ones, especially in the morning. Archie, the other day we were watching, I think it was topi and gazelle. They were running around in their morning energy bursts, and they were chasing each other, and it was wonderful to watch, because it was strange with different species playing in the same game of almost tag and sprinting and chasing each other around, and the pronking nature of the two was very different. So it was so as we sit here with this wonderful Kenyan scene with all the plains game, I'm going to be sending you 1,600 miles to the south, all the way down to South Africa, into the greater Kruger National Park in the Sabi Sands, and we welcome Scott. Hello Scott, and let's send you off to him.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a cloudy South Africa. We are in the Sabi Sands Reserve, and this is a woodlands kingfisher. Very beautiful bird that's migrated into this area in the last couple of months and are enjoying hunting the summer harvest of insects. Now, at the moment it seems quite relaxed. It's just scouting for any prey. It hasn't found anything, and we just couldn't resist showing you its beauty, because we are actually in and around a leopard's den site. My name's Scott Dyson. I'm teamed up with Senzo on camera, and we are hoping to find you guys a leopard and her tiny 6-week-old cub. It's just up ahead of us. Let's keep moving. We just thought we'd start by showing you that wonderful bird. You also do get them up in the Mara, where you've been having a wonderful afternoon, it sounds like, with Taylor and Ralph. Now, I'm just going to stop here and have a quick scan around the den. It's in that fallen down tree over there, and see if we can't see anything. That's the last place we saw the tiny little cub hiding in and around the roots, and on the other side of that tree there's a small cavity where the cub often comes and pokes its head out of. Now, there's no immediate sign of Tundi, the mother, but what we'll do is we'll just drive around a little bit more. There's lots of possible hiding places where she could be hidden, and if she is here, we'll sit with her and wait for her to call the little cub out. If she's not, we'll head out and go looking for her, because she is in all likelihood searching for a meal. So we're going to keep scratching around here, and in the meantime we will send you across to Noel, who's already found you guys an awesome surprise.
Good afternoon, everybody. So one of our tech guys, Conrad, was out and about doing some work, and he found this leopard on his way home. So myself and Ferg came out, and Ferg expertly spotted him from his perch, and then here he is. Now we're debating who this beautiful male leopard is sitting here on top of this termite mound in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I'm actually getting a feeling that it might be Hasana, but you all know the spot patterning a little bit better than I do, so I would like to know what you think. He's definitely full, whomever he is, but Ting Gana was also seen. Got Ferg. How's it, Ferg? Ferg's giving you the salute. Actually, we're in the car, so you're supposed to salute like this. And we're going to have some interesting little scenarios with the camera work today because it felt like rain, so we had to put the roof on, so we have these poles around. For now, as long as he stays where he is, we have this excellent view that I am very happy with, as I hope you all are happy with as well. So no spots this morning, but we're I should say rosettes. No rosettes this morning, but we're starting out well with rosettes this afternoon. And I'm really hoping that Scott, man, look at his little tongue sticking out. That's quite a big dewlap, though. Although Hasana has gotten big in the past few months, we're just going to have to wait and see. Main road. He's just on the southern side of the main road. He is maybe 10 meters from us, which would be about 10 yards for those who don't do metric. And yes, it is absolutely incredible. And we'll start from the beginning. Leopards are one of the big five. The big five are the 5 most charismatic high population densities of leopards. The leopards that we usually see on Safari Live include Tundi and her new little cub that we're guesstimating is about 6 weeks old or so. We also see Shadow and her youngster, who is just about a year, just under a year. She'll be a year in February, I believe. We see Kuchava, and we also see Tamba. They are sister and brother, and they are some of Tundi's litters. Then we also see Hasana, who's one of Karula's youngsters. Karula's no longer with us, but those of you that have been with the show would remember her. I also remember her from some freelance work I used to do in the Northern Sands and also coming here as a guest. And then we get Mvula, my favorite male leopard in the area. He has legs like a bulldog. He's got short little stocky legs. He's also been around for quite a while. And a Ting Gana, as well as Quarantine, Mr. Q. And I'm trying to think if I've gotten everybody there. I think that's pretty much the leopards that we see in general. Now, there has been a sighting or two of an unknown male leopard in the area, and every now and then we get the Anderson male, but he's usually much farther south from us, and I haven't seen him yet. From what I've heard, he is rather large. So any of the viewers that have been watching for a long time, if I've missed anybody, please let me know. And now we were talking about spot patterning with a leopard, and unfortunately his head is down, so I can't go through too much without being able to show you, but I know many of the viewers that have been with us for a long time are amazing at doing those those picture things. So if any of you would like to put up one of your personal favorite GIFs detailing the spot pattern above the whisker line, that would be fantastic. There are some other people that would be great, and those are all personal details with the personal leopard, similar to how we also do a whole body length on the left and a whole body length on the right, including the tail, as well as those front face leopards. Now, I've worked with trackers when I was guiding in the lodges, and I've worked with trackers who can tell from the prints themselves exactly who the leopard is, and that's a very specialized detail to be able to do. Now, we have one of the largest cats that we find in Africa. It's one of the top 3 large cats we find of the 8 large cats in the world. We get a cheetah, leopard, and lion, but there are other predators around as well, some of them big and some of them small, and Taylor, who is up in to show you. So let's head on up to her while we wait to see what this male leopard wants to do.
Look at who we've got again. Another one of our friends has come to keep us company while we sit and wait for the lions to wake up, except now it's run quite far from the car, so let's catch up to it so that we can watch it, and hopefully it will catch an insect. So the lions haven't seen it, thankfully, just yet. No, not that I think that lioness would be too worried about Jackal. I don't think that would be too much of a bother, but those sub-adult lions, those young boys that were down there, might think that this is a fun toy. So hopefully this Jackal keeps on the move. Goodness, it's gone quickly. I'm trying to keep up with it and I actually cannot. Okay. Where on earth are you going? You're spreading your wings, little one. There it goes. They're looking quite healthy. Now, Jinlin, you're wondering what is this Jackal looking for? Anything to eat at the moment, and we've been watching them try and catch grasshoppers. Actually, we've seen them catch grasshoppers this afternoon, but if they can catch a bird or a rat or a mouse or a lizard, or if they can find something to scavenge on, they'll quite happily take that too. I think they've actually done very well. I can't imagine though that just eating grasshoppers would make your belly bulge like that. I really wonder if they didn't have a good meal maybe this morning and now they're just keeping themselves topped up like that. Anyways, they're looking lovely though. And then our lions are just here. Let me get another spot though. And I'll show you that other lioness. She's not too far from here. You always see me like I look like I'm just sleeping on my steering wheel. I promise I'm not. I was just looking at my monitor. Where's she gone now? It's so awkward to turn like this, but we'll give it a bash. Oh, here come the cavalry. Everybody's coming to watch the lions now. There we go. We'll just have a quick view because there's some cars coming down this way. So they're probably going to want to come past us. That I've parked selfishly again. I've parked right across the middle of the road. But there's that lioness. And we should be coming up to where those mud wallows are. And where I saw all those warthogs. I don't see them now though. So I wonder if they've moved. But she's looking in the right direction, which is quite good. Manu and I are happy that she's now staring back this way and not really worrying about what the rest of the pride is doing. Right, I'm going to try and catch up to my jackal friend who's escaping me at the moment. It's on a roll. Ralph, however, has got another creature that can also be quite sneaky, like a jackal.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor. And have a look at this on the back of this buffalo. It's amazing how it's almost like an Uber taxi. They're all in there, and they're all probably part of the same family unit because oxpeckers are cooperative breeders. So there will be a dominant male and female that will be doing all the responsibility of bringing up the young, but everybody else helps out with the nest building and feeding of the young, etc. So it is invested in their interests and in their genes to for them to help the pair that is actually having the nest and the babies. Very interesting to watch how they ride along on the back. And there's actually a couple of these buffalo with a lot of defecation on them as well, because you can see the white, because you know with birds they've only got the single cloaca, so they do defecate and urinate from the same opening, and so it's very often white from the uric acid in it. And there's a few buffalo that have obviously been spending hours wallowing in the mud because they've been pooed all over by these oxpeckers as well. And the buffalo don't seem to mind. They're full of mud. A little bit of poo never hurt any. Those insects being bumped up as the buffalo moves through. And as I said, it's cooling off a little bit now, and that's probably the reason why these buffalo have gotten up and gone on the move again, start grazing. But they do move, and then they graze a little bit, and then they stop a bit. All right. So we're with this massive herd of buffalo, but they can get into herds of thousands, I have seen. But so this is a prey animal that would be very good for lions, not so good for leopard, who I think has got one of your usual suspects.
All right, so from viewers and then also from us in the vehicle, we have all decided that this is in fact Ting Gana, and we've moved around to a different spot, and he's lifted up his head, and his neck is way too thick as well to be Hasana. He also has blue-colored eyes, and then we were just busy talking about spot patterning. So you can see on it is his right-hand side. You can see the top whisker. And then at the back, you can start to see more dots. Now, I've got a photo that I took of him a little while ago on the dashboard here, where you can see it just a little bit better. Basically, and then these dots are the ones that indicate who he is. So when you're marking this down, basically this is A, B, C, D, E, F, and he kind of has a G, but the F and the G blend in. So he has one above B and C. Go away, little pictures. One above B and C, so that would be B/C, and one above the C and the D, so actually two above the C and the D, you can see that there, and then, sorry, A, B, C, D, E, and then one above the F, and then that bleeds into the ones above the G. So that's very distinctive on his right-hand side. Now, what you would do is you would have the actual, let's see if we can do this quickly. You would have an actual photo of a leopard with a face that's similar to this but more straight on. Okay, that's going to be his left-hand side. So with the cat actually physically looking at you. So the nose would be in the center, and then you would have his right-hand side on the left and his left-hand side on the right. And then you would dictate these spot patterns. So then here as well, you can see the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then he's got a B1, a C2, a D, E1, and then an E1, okay, roughly right around in there. So he's got a 5, I think it's a 5-5 pattern on either side. I just want to double check as I say that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he's got a 5-5 pattern, and that 5-5 pattern is unique to him. Sometimes you can have a 0-5 pattern, or a 1-1, or a 2-3. It's all dependent. So the 5 that you put in first is his right-hand side, but the left-hand side of your paper, and then vice versa with the right-hand side is actually his left-hand side on the paper, and then that's how you do it, the 5-5. And then the A, B, C, D, E, F, G is just when you go into more detail. So he should technically be the only dominant male in this area with that 5-5 pattern. That's usually how it works. So from a mammal leopard to a Chelonian leopard, let's go say hello to Scott.
Well, interestingly, this reptile leopard is also on the top of a termite mound, just like your mammalian leopard. But awesome angle, something with one of these leopard tortoises when you're in a vehicle, but I'm hoping we're going to get you some great views of it now as it makes its descent. Ooh, looks like it may have got itself, might have to do some serious off-roading here. Should be okay now. I wonder what it's doing up here. What are you looking for? We can see you. You're not quite as good as disappearing as Ting Gana, the other leopard we are very fortunate to be viewing on this sunset safari. I was hoping it was going to go and eat a big yellow hibiscus flower. Tortoises do like to gobble up flowers. What are you doing? Are you maybe looking for somewhere to lay some eggs? I wonder if that's not a possibility. Tortoises are bigger than the males, and this lady is quite a big individual. Why are you hiding? hiding from us? What are you wanting to find in there? Deborah, you are wondering why is it called a leopard tortoise? It's because of the colorations on its shell. In this flat, cloudy light, it doesn't really illuminate the shell as well as it would be if it was sunny. To its shell, hence the name. And they're quite widely spread through South Africa. They don't get very big here. In other parts of South Africa, they get far bigger, which is interesting. The exact same species. Just that we get here in the Sabi Sands. We also get the Speke's hingeback tortoise, which is not nearly as kind of rounded. It's more of a flattish. They have the ability to kind of hinge their shells slightly closed. Well, seeing as though this tortoise is hiding from us, we will probably leave it be. It can continue with whatever it wants to do, and we'll send you back to Taylor with her jackal.
Who's still on the move. These guys get A for perseverance. It's incredible. I'm really, really impressed with how hard these young jackal pups are working. I actually don't think I gave them enough credit when I first started seeing them. I said that they would just be relaxing, maybe being, waiting for mom and dad to come home, but that's obviously not the case at all. Or at least over the last few days, they seem to have become more interested in looking after themselves rather than waiting away. That could also be the case, as they are growing up very, very quickly. Their coats are all starting to resemble the adults now. They're not so mottled. There's that distinct black line, and that silvery back is going to go a little bit darker than that. Well, they've still got quite a bit of growing to do. They're still quite small. They need to get taller, they need to get longer, and they need to get a little bit wider too. But that will come, of course, with age and, of course, moving around, building up those muscles. Wondering if these jackal pups are going to stay together for life or if they're going to go on their own way. They will split up eventually, and that time is going to come soon. I mean, already we're starting to see them not spending so much time from one another. This one is probably about 200 or 300 meters away now from the rest of the jackal pups. So that instinct to leave, to move on, to find better areas is all starting to kick in now. And when they're ready, they'll go. So you might find one might leave, the others might stay together for another week or so, a few more days, and eventually they'll all drop off and go about their ways. And that's a better area. You might find some bigger prey if you search between those trees, maybe some rodents of sorts, or perhaps a nesting bird. They would definitely like that little snack. Very cool, though. I'm definitely enjoying following the life of the jackals. Quite cool. And I've just seen Ralph, in fact, he's driving down there. Let me quickly make sure there's no cars coming this way. Turn around. We have to get Ralph to come past and have a look at these jackals at some point, too. I think he'd thoroughly enjoy watching them. Sorry, much too far into the little drain. Now let me concentrate and go past it. Now, as we get back onto the road, Linda, you were wondering if anything preys upon the jackal pups? Of course, most certainly. You get hyenas. If a hyena comes through, finds a den, lions will kill them. Probably won't eat them, but they're still going to kill them. Big eagles. I always tell the story how I've almost watched a tawny eagle snatch up a young leopard cub. That's almost happened. So, yes, snakes. Snakes don't care what they eat. A big python, I'd absolutely love to gobble up a jackal pup. So, unfortunately, it's not an easy life either for those jackals. They've got quite a tough life ahead of them too, where they need to watch what they do. And even when that little one is hopping around, it doesn't look like it's focusing on danger, because they had no idea that the lions were around. Every time we've seen those jackal pups and they have seen big predators, they have seen the lions, we've heard them yelping and barking and alarming, telling everybody around them that there are lions in the area. So that's how I know they didn't see them, just from their previous reactions. So it could find itself in a bit of trouble. So better be a bit careful. But we're going to head back to where these lions were, and hopefully they'll be looking a little bit more lively. That's also because there's a cloud at the moment. So while the temperature starts to get nice and cool, hopefully the time is going to arrive for these lions to get up and chase their next warthog victims. And while we play the patience game, Noelle has been playing the patience game too. Let's go and see if she's still sitting with the cats.
He has decided to lift up his head for us, thank goodness, and every time the wind sort of blows around, he shifts about and looks. So even though I said earlier that his belly looks a bit big, because it does look a bit big to me, so he's definitely eaten. I don't think he would be opposed to hunting in this weather. This is really great hunting weather. It's not raining, but we think it might start raining again shortly, and it's nice and windy and slightly cool. So it means that he'll be able to move around and hunt without exerting himself, and the wind will take away the ability. Very well still with that wind, and he also trusts his eyesight a lot more than those prey species do. Notice how his eyes sit in front of his head, very similar to humans. It's predator vision in front there, and the prey species have eyes that are more towards the side of the head, which means they do not have binocular vision like this leopard does. And he's actually positioned himself nicely. We're near the road that takes us to the dam, to Chitwa Dam. Oh, beautiful boy. You can see he's still got a little bit of a ginger there on the left foot, but he seems to be fine. Not really causing too much of an issue. That's a for a leopard. The cub will obviously, if it is a male, will have smaller size until they really fully drop, and then he gets older. But that yellow coloration is a very distinctive color, and that's what we're looking for underneath the tail. Once a bit this morning for those that were with us this morning about how I think it's possibly a male cub, and that's why, and that's the color that I was picking up. Now, as I was really, sir, as I was saying before, we're close to the access to Chitwa Dam, so there should be some impala around. Big negative. I do know there were a couple of times where we found him having moved around close to one of the den sites. That cub is way too little. She does not want him near that cub yet. If for some reason he decides that he doesn't think it's his, he'll definitely kill it. But I've also seen the fathers of leopard cubs kill and eat small cubs like that because it's good protein to put in their bodies. So no, she does not want to introduce. She's going to wait a long time. And sometimes they don't even introduce. Sometimes the mothers keep the cubs away from the fathers for forever, and sometimes when it's male cubs, they also do that on purpose to keep the aggression down from the male. So obviously that male cub, when he reaches about 2 years old, he's going to be kicked away from the mom because the mom's, it's going to be time for her to have a new set of cubs, and then he's either going to have to move on to try and find another territory, or he possibly might take over his dad's territory. And Ting Gana is coming towards the end of his reign, and so that's definitely a possibility for something like that to happen. And the older he gets and the smaller his territory gets because of increasing pressure from other male leopards, he's going to be slightly more aggressive. But again, it's all based on personality, so he might end up being a doting dad if he's ever around on a kill. And remember, we are in the Sabi Sands and it is high density areas, so we tend to see exceptions to the rule. So you're going to hear a vehicle just now. We've got position themselves and having a look. Let's head back up to Kenya to my friend Ralph and see how he's doing. Please ask him how his Christmas went. I'm keen to know. That's a beautiful shot just before we head off.
Yes, thank you, Noel. Our Christmas was absolutely swimming. And I hope that you all had a wonderful Christmas down there in South Africa as well. And to the rest of everybody else, all the viewers, once again, I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas and they got what they wanted and they had a lovely meal with family and friends. And here we've got a small family of elephants just moving through a little drainage line, a little bit further down towards the Mara River than where we were previously. And there's a small little baby with mommy here. It's been copying her because with the grass, the way that they get it, or they grab a whole bunch of grass, they twist it in their trunk, and then they very often, if they can't pull it out with their trunk, they'll pop it with their foot. And the little baby is very often trying to get a piece or two of grass and then trying to push it with its foot, but doesn't quite grab it properly with the grass, and then misses completely with the foot, but it's trying all the same. And then just forgets about it and starts playing with the tree. You know, that's just like kids, isn't it? As Mommy continues with the important work of feeding properly. The youngster would still be suckling, so it's all in the name of copying Mom and getting a taste for different things, but the real nutrition would still be coming from Mommy's milk. Very cute. Now, kestrel fox, you're wondering if this baby elephant is exploring the tree roots. Yes, exactly. It's like all those little youngsters of every walk of life. He's exploring his surroundings to the fullest, trying to have a look at everything that's around him. And at the moment, it's obviously the intricacy of trying to grab some grass and break it off with your foot got a little bit much for him, so he thought he'd just start playing with the roots of the tree and maybe learning how to climb a little bit and so on. There is quite an incline here next to this riverbank, so they all did have to make their way down, and you can see that the more experienced mother did it very well, nice and slowly. Obviously the baby half fell down, and then the older babies, or the sort of sub-adult juveniles that we have here as well, they also didn't really do it perfectly, but not quite as badly as the little baby. So you could almost see all the experience coming through in Mommy, and you can see how they're actually trying to learn from her in all these small little things, climbing and going down hills, and how to eat grass that's too difficult to pull out with your trunk. All right, so I think we're going to continue up a little bit along this drainage line and see what else we can find. But from one big five animal to another, let's head over to Taylor with what she has found.
Our lion's sitting, well, just one lioness actually, just sitting up on her mound still. I'm uncertain of the lion's plan, but that's also because I can't speak their language, unfortunately. But they've been up in focus for quite some time, so I think they've made a few attempts today. I don't think the one that we watched was their first attempt. I think that before they go hunting again, I think they're going to have a nap. Maybe they'll go once more and then rest for a little bit, because they've been up in the heat of the day. Like I said, they've probably made a couple of attempts, haven't been successful. They're going to have a break eventually and catch up. I mean, I also wonder where the rest of the lions are, because there should be a whole bunch of them here. I've only seen 10 now, so more emerged from the grass. So there were a total of 10 lions here. Sub-adults, the other females, all laying about. So the rest must just be nearby. Maybe they just weren't too happy with standing out in the sun, like some of the pride, and have decided to just utilize those little shrubs. That's what I'd be doing. I would not voluntarily sit out in the sun all the time. It's too hot. And Megan, you're wondering if the lions are looking hungry. Yes, they are. Perhaps you missed earlier in the show, we actually had them make an attempt on some warthogs, but the warthogs outsmarted them. Sorry. Oh, a little. That was delicious. That was a bug. Got me. Haven't eaten one for quite some time, so I thought I'd just swallow it. That was fantastic. My favorite thing about this job, that we have to, well, this work we have to call a job, which is not really work. It's so cool being out here. So they've made an attempt already, and I don't think it's going to be the last one. They're definitely going to go out and look for something again. There's just nothing, in the vicinity. You can see there, she's just having a bit of a rest again. She's up and down, and most of the time she's actually having a cat nap. But something keeps biting her, so I don't know if there's some ants. I was saying this earlier, we saw her jumping around, and that's normally when she pops her head up. She's tried to stop what was ever biting her. and then she wakes up for a few seconds, and then she goes back to sleep again. But I mean, the conditions are just getting better and better for these cats now. Now the wind is starting to pick up. You can see, and you can probably hear the wind. You can see the grass moving around quite a bit now. And then, of course, it's quite cloudy this evening, so there's not going to be much starlight out. And the moon will probably be hidden by one of those clouds. So they might as well rest up now and try again when they've got their best chances, when they've got everything on their side. I have a lot of respect for these cats. It's pretty amazing how persistent they are and how incredibly tough and strong they are to bring down such big prey down. Now, Scarlett, you've said, why are lions scared of people during the day and not at night? Haha, well, I've had the complete opposite experiences. In fact, I've encountered probably lions on foot more times at night than I have during the day, which sounds a bit ridiculous, but when you work on these reserves with no fences around the lodge and you have to escort your guests back to their suites after dinner, you bump into lions a lot. I'm just trying to think. I mean, guides, we'd like to tell big stories, but I would say in a month, on the last place I was guiding at, if I saw lions on the pathway back to the rooms 4 or 5 times a month, that was a little bit. That wasn't a lot. I used to see them often, and they normally just run away from you, or they just stand and watch you, but not watch you as in, oh, you look delicious, you look tasty. Just keeping an eye out. And anytime I did feel uncomfortable, or if I came around the corner and there were lions right on the pathway, and obviously my guests, I'm a bit worried about them panicking, and it's dark and blah blah blah, so I would just clap my hands once or twice, going and talk and say something, and they would get up and run for their lives. So I'm not encouraging this behavior for those of you that are not guides, but guides are trained and we know what to do in order to keep people safe. But yes, I've experienced many encounters of lions at night, and none of them have been an aggressive one. In fact, my encounters during the day where I've been charged by lions have been much more scary than the ones at night. Anyways, I think we're going to stay with these cats for a little bit longer, and hopefully one of the other jackals runs towards us. That's the plan. We've sent the message on. Let's jump down to South Africa. It's a far jump, but you'll get there eventually, and you'll land on board with a funny man, Scott, and I wonder what he's got to show you.
Well, I hope the Angama Pride do get up and on the move sooner rather than later. And interesting that Taylor's bumped into a bit of a night owl, old Taylor. And I'm looking forward to sitting. We are still in the search of anything really. Ideally leopard, ideally Tundi, a female who's got a tiny young cub at the moment that we would love to show to you. If you haven't seen it before, it's worth sticking around for, because there is a strong chance that the mother leopard will return to the den at some time, I'm guessing soonish. Now, she wasn't there this morning when we went to go and check, and she wasn't there when we went and checked a little bit earlier on this afternoon. It's not to say though she's not there right now. We're just going to do a big loop around, make sure she's not out and about hunting, and then head back there probably in about half an hour or so. The one thing that may have happened is that she may have decided to move the den site, so that is a reality, it is a possibility. We're hoping it's not the case, because she has chosen such a beautiful spot, fallen down and climb out to reveal itself. So that's something to look forward to, hopefully. Richard, you're wondering if there are any creatures that occur in the Sabi Sands that I haven't seen and that I would like to see. Yes, there certainly are. The caracal is probably the one animal or the one main mammal that I haven't seen that I would really, really love to see and spend time with. They're beautiful, beautiful cats, and I haven't seen one since I've started guiding. my whole adult life, I haven't seen one. When I was a kid, I remember seeing one. One tried to steal a chicken that my mother was defrosting when we were out in the countryside in the Natal Drakensberg, a beautiful mountain range. So that was quite exciting. But I was tiny, so I can't really remember that too clearly. Most wanting to see. Another animal that I have seen but only a few times is a honey badger, and I'd really love to be able to follow one around and watch exactly what they get up to. They're incredibly interesting and tenacious little animals, but I have seen a handful in the Sabi Sands. So I've answered your question and kind of mixed it up a bit with adding in another animal that we don't see very often, but that is still very exciting to see. What animals have you not seen yet and would like to see? Maybe we can try our luck and find them for you. Do let us know. I guess a lot of you might be interested in aardvark, a nocturnal kind of ant bear. I don't think we've got any sightings of those live here in the sands. Maybe possibly in the Mara. You're wondering if the caracal is related to the bobcat, and yes, it could well be. I'm not 100% certain, but they're very similar looking beasts, and before all of the continents split up, they could well have been related, so, and therefore still can be. But yeah, I think there is a possibility that they are, but I'm not 100% sure. I cannot believe how cold it is at the moment. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's all relative. I mean, cold, saying it's cold here compared to what a lot of you are experiencing at the moment is not really fair. But considering the heat we've been experiencing and considering it is a low-felt summer, I'm astounded by this cold weather. It's quite enjoyable now that I'm a little bit more prepared for it. This morning I wasn't. I was frozen this morning. And good conditions though, good conditions for predators to be on the move. Hopefully not only the Angama pride get up and moving soon, but also Ting Gana, that beautiful big male leopard, who's actually the father, in all likelihood, of this little leopard cub we're hoping to show you a little bit later. So good prospects with two predators who are hopefully going to get up sooner rather than later. I should have thought about this one. Anissa, you've mentioned that you'd like to see a pangolin. So would I. I've only ever seen one. And the Sabi Sands is probably not the best place to see them. You do get some areas where you're seeing animals like pangolin and aardvark, African wildcat, porcupine happen quite commonly. There's a property called Swalu in the Kalahari, in the kind of northwestern corner of South Africa, and there you get lots of the kind of specials as well as meerkats, so that's a good place to know about if you're ever wanting to see those animals. Very good. Well, I think you guys need to jump on board with somebody who's already found some animals so I can try and concentrate and pull something out of the bag. So you're going to head across to Taylor for an update on the Angama Pride.
So, sorry, Scotty D, I'm not Taylor. As you know, I'm Noelle. I saw you about an hour ago. But that's all right. We'll take it. I know that there's only so many girls out here in the world. Ha ha ha. Anyway. So, Ting Gana really hasn't moved. He is so happy on top of his termite mound. He's probably a little bit warmer up there. He's camouflaged himself in nicely, and he's got a nice little vantage point. There's a few impala that are wandering around, and he's been keeping an eye on them, but not to the point where I think he's going to be doing anything anytime soon. I think if any of them do get closer than where they are now, it's definitely a possibility, but I really think he's just enjoying the cooler weather and a little bit of a cat nap, excuse the pun. So carrying on with our leopard talk from earlier, so we've briefly talked about how they're part of the Big Five, and we've talked about how we do the spot patterning, or specifically how I do my spot patterning, and that comes from having worked with a leopard researcher. That's why I use that method, and that's the method that most of the people that I work with use. I know that there's a few other ways that other people ID them, but that's the most surefire way. We're going to see a vehicle just in the background there. That's one of the Chitwa vehicles. We are on Chitwa property, and they allow us to access their dam and to traverse on their property. Thank goodness it gives us a nice bit of space to move around. So just excuse them in the background. The guests there are just getting a really fantastic view as they move around the termite mound. And notice how Ting Gana didn't twitch an ear even really. He is not fazed by where that vehicle moved. I do know sometimes from the way that you can see on screen, people sometimes think, oh my goodness, what are you doing? And you're close to that animal and this and that. And trust me, the animals will always let you know what their personal boundaries are. Ting Gana is super, super chilled out. Look, if someone were to accidentally or on purposely get out of the car when he's that close, then he would have something to say about it, because it's breaking the social contract. So they know that we are individual humans in this big machine that moves around and part of their environment. Breaking the social contract would be to stand up and get out of that vehicle when close. It's a very different social contract to that of on foot, because they can hear and sometimes see us coming beforehand, especially if they're a predator. Now, Ferg did a nice little view of the foot there with the pad and then up the body, so you could see the lobes to the back foot, the 3 lobes on the bottom pad, and then some of the 4 toes. And then he came up, and you'll notice that there are rosettes and then spots as well. So we comment that cheetahs have spots and leopards have rosettes, but there are a few of wonky spots there on a leopard. I believe it was Rudyard Kipling that wrote that story about a leopard never changes its spot, and I've spent my whole career saying, but they have rosettes. It's the cheetahs that have the spots. I wish we had a cheetah in the sighting with us so that we could do a nice live comparison, but unfortunately we don't. Maybe Ralph or Taylor up in the Mara will manage to catch a nice cheetah sighting for us. I'm jonesing for some cheetah this side. I have not seen cheetah. I think I'm going on 4 or 5 months now. It's too long. They need to come over a little bit farther so that we can see them. Now, he's got a few nicks and cuts in his ears there, but he's an older male. We're not 100% sure his exact birth date, but his roundabout age is 10 to 12 years old, and that's predicated on when he was first seen, the age roughly that he was when he was first seen, and then therefore roundabout when he would have been born. Fiona, that's a really great question. You're curious to know, is the leopard's paw skinny compared to a lion's? Now, the paw that Ferg is back foot, the pad there is longer than it is wide, so it is much thinner. Now, a leopard is much smaller than a lion, so yes, the prints are going to be smaller, but both of the back feet in relation to the body size, it's going to be longer and than it is wide, whereas the front feet are width and length the same. And again, a leopard being smaller than a lion, the paws will be smaller, not necessarily skinnier. Now, a cheetah will have much thinner prints in compared to a leopard and a lion, because that's the way the body structure is, but again, the front paw is going to be relatively width and length the same, and the back the length longer than the width. Good questions, everybody. And don't forget, we are live, we are interactive, and for any of you that might be a silent viewer out there, or any of you that might be new viewers, come join us, send questions through or comments through #SafariLive on the Twitter, or if you want, on YouTube chat. Now, I have been wanting to see a leopard all day, but I'm actually hoping that this leopard starts hunting soon. Oh my goodness, Tomer, you would like to know how many leopards live in the Greater Kruger. Unfortunately, leopard population numbers are not known to the full extent, if at all, because of the elusive nature of them. I will say that in general, the greater Kruger area, the Lowveld area, has quite a high population density, but I personally could not give you a number. There might be a way to correlate between the different properties and the leopards we see to get some sort of a number out of it. But we don't even know what the numbers are continent-wise. I do know there's a few statistics of leopards floating out there, but you really need to take them with a huge grain of salt, just because of where they move and how they work and all the different people and the different research methods that are out there. I can give you numbers in relation to sort of lion and cheetah and wild dogs if you're keen on that. So there's about 7,000 our greater Kruger area, if I'm remembering correctly, I think they're guesstimating around 300 roughly, but possibly lower. I've even heard counts around 200, again, depending on who you talk to. Wild dogs, we're looking at under 3,500 on the continents, more sub-Saharan Africa. I haven't heard of them occurring north of the Sahara. And then in the greater Kruger area, we're looking at about 200, 250. And then for wild lions, we're looking at about 20,000 in sub-Saharan Africa. And in South Africa, about 5,000 wild lions, and I believe the greater Kruger has something like 2,000, 2,500 in the area. So those numbers are a little bit easier for me to give, and that just has to do, one, with the amount of research that's done on those species, but two, also they tend to be a bit more out there and a bit more visible, just in the way that they function as creatures, and so it makes it a little bit easier to do a census with them. He is flat, flat, flat. We have another vehicle that's joining us in the sighting, so just excuse the nose. Philip, good question. You're asking, aren't rosettes just clusters of spots? And I guess you could technically say that, but Philip, what we're going to try and do is just zoom in on some of these rosettes a little bit, just to give you a better idea of what we're talking about. So now a spot is a round dot, yeah? So you can see there already, there's not really rhyme or reason to any of the ones that are completely dark. But now a rosette is these wonky little blacks with a lighter color inside. So I guess you could technically say it's a bunch of spots that have bled together somewhat, and then it's lighter in size. I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, however makes you happy to describe it. But for me, I sort of say it's an asymmetrical sort of wonky little round bit with a discoloration in the middle. Whatever makes you happy to say it, you're more than welcome. Ting Gana, my friend, I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm so happy that you've decided not to be your normal self. We are not request that you do something magical like pick your head up or stalk some impala or maybe yawn and I mean, it also means he might start moving around. Scarlet, you want to know, is a leopard's fur really soft? Now, Scarlet, in the time when I was doing research in various different places, I was able to help one of the women that I was working with, who was the head researcher, in darting and cataloging variations on leopard, and so I did handle. Not rough, but it's not soft, and they smell. They don't smell as bad as a lion, and they certainly don't smell as bad as a wild dog, but it's not super soft. I know it looks soft, but it also has to be able to protect them. A lion's fur is also quite stiff and hard. I've done a bit of relocation work with them as well. It's softer around the belly, if that helps. All right, everybody, we are only going to get maybe about 5 or 10 more minutes with him. So I think let's maybe go have a look at what Ralph has up in the Mara. And I'm not going to tell you, it's such a super surprise, and I'm ridiculously jealous right now because what the original member. So let's head on up to him.
Thanks, Noel. It's not the perfect sighting of this animal, but it's a sighting nonetheless. And this is a black rhino, if you can make out in the long grass. But every now and then he lifts his head up, and you'll be able to see the horns of the rhinoceros. There we go. And once again, it's becoming evident to me that these rhino here are quite adept at grazing, not being browsers. Remember, this is one of the big five. A white rhino is not theoretically one of the big five. It is quite convenient just to say rhino, but the big five was actually named after the 5 most dangerous animals to hunters, and that being the buffalo, the black rhino, the elephant, the lion, and the leopard. So white rhino are not considered to be dangerous enough to be one of the big five, but it is quite fashionable just to say that we have big five on our game reserve, but we only have white rhino, and only the people in the know will know. R. Laura Moore, thanks very much for your comment saying that this is a beautiful scene. It is absolutely stunning. And as we did see a nice little close-up when that rhino flicked his ear, we could see that there were some notches in it, and that would have been done by the researchers and the anti-poaching team so that they can clearly identify this animal. And hopefully there you can see it was just very quick, but triangles cut out of the ears, and then they use that. I've forgotten the actual way that they use those shapes to then to a number, and then this animal will not be given a name but a number, and each animal will have different ear notchings and the corresponding numbers that will then be identifiable for the specific individuals. And they can very often also then microchip the horn, which then they can also follow the movements of that horn, but generally it's got a barcode, so they can check it here, and at any point, if it is found not on the animal, they can barcode it again, and then they would be able to see where that horn came from. A little bit expensive for them to be able to put satellite trackers and things like that in all the horns. I know there has been 1 or 2 put around, and it's mostly on private properties and private animals that the owners do that with their animals, and then they can permanently track them. But yeah, the funding for the majority of rhino is not there for everyone to be permanently tracked. Now, Philip, you're wondering if black rhino are the ones with the square or pointed lip or jaw. Black rhino are the ones with the hooked lipped. So they've got a prehensile lip, and it almost like an elephant's trunk, the tip of an elephant's trunk, and that enables them to be able to browse. So black rhino are typically browsers. Having said that, here it looks like they're just grazing because of the value of the grass that they have here and the nutritional value, but traditionally black rhino are browsers with the hook-lipped mouth, and the white rhino the square lip or the veit lip. That's where it came from. That's why we then termed them as white rhino, and the other one was just a contrast to call it a black rhino. But it's nothing to do with the color, the naming of these animals, and it is probably better to use the square-lipped versus the hook-lipped rhino. Now, it's always wonderful to be watching such a rare animal and an animal that is in the big five, and we will be sending you now back down to South Africa with Noel, who I know has got another one of the big five and one of my favorite animals. Let's go off to her.
Buddy, all right, I'm just repositioning just a little bit. We are only going to be able to stay in this sighting for a couple of more minutes. We have to give some space to some other vehicles that are going to want to come in. So I just want to come around just to the other side just so we can see his beautiful little face one last time. So just give me half a moment. Just before we got to you, he picked up his head and looked around at us, and then of course just as we go live he puts his head back down. So I'm just busy trying to give him a little bit of space. I also don't want to get in the way of any of the photographs of any of the guests in the other vehicle as we come around. I also don't want to knock Ferg off the car, so we're just going to meander this way and get in for one or two more screenshots for all of you, and then we will make our way on to something else. Now, something I want you to notice, there's a little bit of a pole that's in the way, but you can actually see that rain that's starting to come down. You can see that huge cloud that's moving, and also Ferg's got to move the moisture off the screen so long. So we are also about to get a soaking wet. So from here, we're going to zoom in. We'll do a couple more beautiful shots of our boy here, and then we'll make our way down to Chitwa Dam. And I'm very sorry to have pulled you away from your rhino with the Ralph up there in the Maasai Mara, but I was convinced that he was going to start moving because of this rain, and he was giving all the signs, and then he laid flat down. So I think, there we go. Willow, who is 3 years old, would like to know if this is a daddy leopard. Willow, it is indeed a daddy leopard. Thanks for the great question, sweetie. I hope you're enjoying the show. Willow, what's your favorite cat? Is it leopard? Away? Sometimes he'll pick his head up, sometimes not. We'll have pushed our time as much as we possibly can. So I think rather than making these guys move too much, I think we're also going to have to start making our way out. It's been an amazing sighting with Ting Gana. I hope you've enjoyed as much as I have. Nala, a leopard is extremely strong. This male leopard can kill something that, like a big giraffe baby, sort of about 100 kilograms, 120 kilograms, and bring it up into a tree, several meters up a tree. So they are quite strong. I'm just letting these other guys, sorry, just as I was saying, we were leaving and getting repositioned, the other vehicles have moved, so I'm just going to let them reposition, and then we are going to move on. Just letting one vehicle move at a time so that the sound doesn't bother him too much. And while we are busy doing this, let's head back up to the Maasai Mara to Taylor and see what she has to show us. And then hopefully as we carry on, we might find you another leopard or some lion or maybe something else. You never know.
Well, what I thought we would do is I think we'd take a break from all our voices and listen to what nature has got to offer. And we found ourselves in a very beautiful spot, so volumes up as full as they can go. And I want you all to listen. Isn't that lovely? All the different insects couple of birds chirping too, and there was one bird that's actually just sitting just to the right where you are, Manu, and in front of us on a shrub, a little bit more up on this big main shrub. 12 o'clock. There we go. Is a white-browed cuckoo, typically flying, as I say its name. Hopefully it will land again. In the bushes. Nicely done. As I was hoping though that it was going to let out its beautiful call, because that's one of my favorite sounds in the bush. Although you don't hear them too much. Normally they start calling just before some rain, and just after rain is when they seem to be most vocal. But now hiding away in that shrub that we can't even see it. But the sounds of the bush are magical out here. The chorus of all the birds, of the amphibians, when we have had some rain. And then of course from the lions and hyena. Very nice, Manu. Well spotted. Another one. Doesn't look like it's going to give us a call though. Would be really amazing. Probably one of the easier bird calls to learn. All of you should be able to do a cuckoo call of sorts. It's very quiet out in the Mara today. I'm even just amazed how quiet it is. Now, our Laramo, you said it's so pretty, the sparkle of light everywhere. It is indeed, it is so stunning. We're about to hit golden hour. Well, at least one part of it, for it dips behind the escarpment for the section. So it is very, very nice to see how the grasses just reflect the beautiful light. It is so stunning. The best time, though, is first thing in the morning to do this, because then you've got all the droplets of dew covering the blades of grass. And that is incredible. And the spider webs too. Oh, I think we're going to do that tomorrow morning. I think that's how we're going to try and start, Manu? Find a spider web and grass that's covered in dew. And hopefully we'll be able to show it to all of you. I feel like I'm a bit like the cat in the hat today. Even as I've been talking, I keep rhyming, and it's so unintentional. But it's nice to have a close look up at all the different grass species. It's incredible how tall it is and how nothing is touching it at the moment. Didn't even know caterpillars, Manu? Haven't spotted any caterpillars? No, not yet. I haven't either. Bet if you were doing a bushwalk through here, though, you would definitely find lots. And I let you listen to the sounds of nature. It's a pleasure. I like to listen. I try and do it at least once on a game drive. And I often stop in the marshy areas where you can hear the frogs. But the frogs haven't been saying much at the moment, just because of before. But they're so localized that literally one side of the road will get wet and the rest will stay dry. There's nothing quite like a silhouetted tree and a silhouetted escarpment with a beautiful sun. I think we're going to have an unbelievable sunset this evening. I think that's definitely going to happen. Just enough clouds to help with the beautiful colorations. But that's still in a little while. Well, we're going to keep on moving along this road that's next to the forest, and maybe we see some nice birds. Ralph is back with the elephants.
Yes, thank you, Taylor. And we're trying to work out, this is the real mystery of the elephants and their missing tails. I think there's either a delicacy going on elephants' tails, or there's something sinister at play. But I'm not going to stop until we find out the answer and find a crocodile hanging off one of these elephants' tails, or find out whatever is the reason behind these elephants' tailless bodies. Now that one you can see, and that's leaning towards my suspicions that this is happening to young elephants and babies, because that has happened a long time ago. It's all healed over, and for me it seems that that little bit has grown after the tail was docked in the years post to the traumatic experience that this animal lost its tail. But it is a mystery all the same. Until we solve it, we're going to keep looking for clues, but he still seems quite adept with that little stump of his. Greasy, you're wondering if a short tail hampers the life of an elephant. Well, it doesn't seem to at all. I think it may be a little bit less in the way of being able to swat flies, but this female, she's gone on and had some of her own babies, and so I wouldn't say that it is hampering them at all. But it's probably quite uncomfortable at the time when it happens. But I think now you can see that, like a dog that has its tail docked, it continues on with no real problem. And I suppose it all depends on how young it happens to them, because it's the same with us as humans. If you had to lose your finger or lose an eye or whatever the case might be, just getting yourself into a little bit of a disabled position, the younger it happens, the easier you are able to adapt without that part. So I would suggest that it's exactly the same with the animals and with the elephants. Look, I think if an elephant had to lose a foot, it would obviously be a much bigger story. But with them just losing the tail, it's not a massive loss. But it is concerning because there are a lot of them around with half tails and no tails. So I'd like to get to the bottom of it. And I'm not going to stop until Archie and I find the answer. And I think that might come down near to the river. Now, Sankit, you're wondering if that tail will ever grow back, if they lose it when they're young. Well, Sankit, I believe that this female lost that tail when she was young, and for the part that would have continued growing had she not lost it at all. So that tail would have been nice and long, but now it's a little stump, and I think that probably was cut off at the base, and then it's grown that little bit extra in the years after that. So, as we watch these elephants and ponder the reason for these wounds on their tails and loss of tails, with my suspicions being down near to the river, I'm going to send you on down to Noel in South Africa, who's also near to a river, and with an animal that is living in close proximity to the one that I think is the reason.
So it's playing with his mum on the little island that's underneath. Ooh! Did we hear that? I love hippo noises. Their grunts make me so happy. So he's playing. There's a little bit of soil that's under there, like a little island, and they're sitting on top of it and playing around. I'm glad you guys could hear those noises. He's biting the tree. What is he doing? When Mum was moving over there as well, he was also mouthing Mum a little bit. He's just being silly. It's not too windy. It's not as windy as it was this morning, and it's nice and cool, so we're going to get some nice activity with these hippos early on. I'm actually hoping that some of them decide to come out of the water earlier than they normally would, because seeing hippos on land is always fantastic. And then, there he comes, bouncing up and down. So he's still little enough that several months, he'll start heading off and going out with Mum and the rest of the pod or raft. Those are grazers. But that being said, when I used to work up in the Maasai Mara, I watched a hippo chase a crocodile away from a small a small zebra kill and then eat it itself. So they do eat meat from time to time. So Mary, you're curious to know, is that baby hippo a male or a female? I honestly couldn't tell from here, Mary. It would need to come out of the water so that I could see its genitalia underneath. With the adults, it's sometimes easier to tell. The males are a lot larger than the females, and the heads in the water can sometimes help you. But if it's a juvenile moving up through a sub-adult, so sort of teenage age, it can be difficult to say. That hippo has found a nice little stump or something to rest its head on there. Now, when they're more active like this, or as they're starting to get active, you start to see a lot of yawning and gaping. So a gape is when they bring their whole bodies up and open their mouth. They can open their mouth about 170 degrees, and it's to show off their nice big tush. Scarlett, you would like to know, is a baby hippo constantly by its mother's side? Yes and no, Scarlett. So this little one is following its mom around, but it's quite tiny. Just to the left of him are some other young hippos, and they have ventured a little bit farther away from their mothers, but not far enough away where they couldn't have, their mums can still keep an eye on them. And love that sound. Fantastic. That was absolutely fantastic. I hope you all could hear that. But they're not moving so far away from the mums and the aunties and the pod that the adults couldn't chase something away that might try and get them. So there are two very large crocodiles that are in this dam, and some of these babies are small enough that they would be a meal for maybe the largest of the two, but it would be very difficult to get past the mothers and the aunties and the big dominant male that's in this area. Hippo's jaws are extremely strong. They're strong enough to crack a crocodile in half, so it would be quite hard for them to move like that. Now, we've got another little island that's over this side. Oh, you found our croc. Thanks, Ferg. There's one of them. You can just see the scales at the back there. Now, these crocs do not do anything in size to the crocs that you'll see up with Taylor and Ralph in the Mara, but they're large for our area. Bara, I'm so sorry. I'm having a little breakup in comms there, but I do believe your question, Bara, was that do the baby hippos ever come out on land? They do, especially when they're little like this. What Mom will do... Oh, are they born in the water or on the land? Sorry about that, Bara. Are they born on the land or in the water? They're born in the water. So hippos nurse underwater. They give birth underwater, and they also mate underwater. And that's easier for them. They are aquatic mammals. They're related to whales. They're in the same order as whales, order Whippomorphia. I believe it's also the same order as manatees and dugongs, if I'm remembering correctly, but I'm having a little bit of a brain freeze at the moment. We just had a hippo that was here that was doing a bit of territorial display. She came out of the water and started defecating and then wagging her tail back and forth. The females tend to do that often in the water, as do the males, and then the males do it on land. The females tend to just go to the toilet normally when they're on land. Now, as I was saying before, some of the largest crocs that I've ever seen are up in the Mara, where you have Taylor and Ralph, and then actually the biggest croc I've ever seen is in South Luangwa National Park in Zambia. Oh, those two are fighting over there by that tree for... Well, fighting, they're wrestling. So cute. All right, so Taylor, of course, is up in the Maasai Mara, which I believe we've decided is about 1,600 miles away from us. So we're looking at over 3,000 kilometers up north and east. And so let's head all the way up to her, to that beautiful open area ecosystem with all those grasslands and the escarpments, and see what she has to show us.
An abstract shot. Isn't that gorgeous? Can you believe that is the common Egyptian goose casting that beautiful silhouette on to the liquid gold this afternoon. Goodness gracious, where has this day gone? That is so stunning. That is really, really nice to see. And they're just standing at the most perfect spot to make the water look as if it's gold. Hey, isn't it? Loves the smaller things and the most unusual things. There we go. He's going to call. We can have another sound to listen to. The little goose shuffle. That was so great. So it looks like they're just trying to stir the sediment up with their webbed feet and try and get any little particles of all sorts of goodies out from the water. Now, they're able to feed on a variety of different things. They also are grazers most of the time. But I like that little goose shuffle. That's quite cool. Little dance and celebration of such a beautiful day. Wow. And there is a hippo in here, believe it or not. But it's like Scuba Steve 2.0. You know Scuba Steve that lives at Treehouse Dam. And it keeps doing this very, very gently. I think this would be a great diving hippo, because even when it puts its head back under the water, it doesn't create much of a splash. Perhaps it doesn't realize it has a talent. But gorgeous indeed. But our day is starting to come to an end, unfortunately. I'm going to have to start heading for the hills now and make the climb up the escarpment before they lock me out and tell me that I can't come back in. That probably wouldn't be the worst thing that's happened to me. But thank you very much, Egyptian geese, for the beautiful sight and the beautiful sounds on the Liquid Gold Dam below in Mara. But we're going to start heading home now, so it's going to be a bumpy ride up, and a quick one, that is. Off you go back to Noel, and hopefully she's going to find you a few more leopards tonight.
So the older calves here are busy picking on the younger one. I don't know if you can see the size difference now. Oh, beautiful. And then the little ones decided to run away, and you saw how the mom stood up there, and then the older ones pushed off because they don't want to get involved with mom getting up like that. That was fantastic. And then they're coming back. They're checking for more. Hippos are amazing. They can see above. The little one's hiding behind mom behind the tree. I don't know if you can see that, Ferg. He's positioned himself so that he's behind his mother. There he's coming around the back. I don't. If any of you have siblings, what's happening here? A little baby mammal trait. Oh, cute. And you can see their tush haven't really started to form. So what they're practicing here, adult hippos, especially the males, the way they're opening their mouths there, they fight like that when they're adults. So the most amazing hippo sequences I've ever witnessed have been up along the Luangwa River in Zambia. And I've watched male hippos trying to kill each other by sticking their tush into each other's lower epic sightings have been in South Luangwa. And now the older ones are resting a little bit, letting that one pick. When we were moving up to the dam here, I was saying to Ferg that the little ones remind me of little pigs. I don't know why. It's very cute. All right, from one cute African mammal all the way up to Kenya to Ralph with another adorable African mammal, whether it's small or big. Let's go have a look and see what he wants to show you.
Thanks very much, Noel. Yeah, these two bull giraffe were just having a full go at each other, necking and swinging that pendulum head of theirs and knocking each other. I think they might get up to a little bit more. We're up the side of the escarpment, and there's lovely light poking through the clouds from the sun, and is heading down towards sunset now. There's the one giraffe maybe concedes defeat, and off he goes in submissive mode. But coming back towards us here, we've got another few sinister individuals who've got a couple of cubs with them. Yes, it's our favorite hyenas. And we were actually chatting around the fire last night and saying that we should start to get to know a couple of the clans a little bit better, and maybe we can start to name a few of the higher ranked females. But we'd have to do them in terms of politicians, I think. But the trouble being is that a lot of the politicians around the world, things are changing a bit, but most of them are men, and most of the animals in charge of the hyena den are females. So we'd have to be naming females men if we did that, which I don't know if that would go down too well, but with the political lifestyle of a hyena, it would make sense to name them after politicians, I think. And could make for very interesting conversation. Pisces, Bobby, you're commenting that yes, it's hyena, cuties. Well, look at that one. There's a cub there, and as all youngsters do, always mucking around, having fun. It's always great to watch the youngsters. Always full of energy and always full of fun. Lying on his back. I'm thinking that these hyenas are quite hungry with the cubs being out with them as well. So I wonder if they're going to be on the hunting prowl this evening. They're out quite early as well. Molino, you're wondering if anybody's ever tried to tame a hyena. Molino, yes, and they have actually succeeded in doing it. But, you know, it's a difficult word, that tame, because a wild animal, even a household dog, is never completely tame. Those instinctive reactions will still come out at some time, and you do not want to be on the wrong end of a biting hyena, because one bite could crush your skull. So it's not going to be just a trip to the hospital, it's going to be a trip to the morgue. So with hyena, it is not suggested that they are tamed. I would not do it. I would not suggest it, and I think the people that do it they are quite incredibly lucky if they don't get away with if they do have problems with the animal, because it's quite a scary thought, I think, to have a hyena as a pet. And I don't know if you'd have any friends coming to visit if you had one of those. They're very nice and cute when they're young, but when they get older, they're not quite cute at all. But it's all in the eyes of the beholder, I suppose. So, thank you once again, everybody. We are heading towards the end of our show here in the Maasai Mara. We will, however, be sending you on south, down to South Africa. And so, thank you very much once again for joining us on Safari Live. Let's head you on over to Noelle and see what she has found for you.
Little ones over there. So we're debating on where to focus on which part of the hippos. We have a couple of teenagers that are here that are fighting, but a lot of their fighting's under the water. And every time we want to put it on camera, they hide. But we still have and then we've got this little part of the pod that's resting. It's all the adults going, oh my goodness, children, leave me alone. And then we have our little grouping still of the tiny youngsters and the mums who have to watch them and keep an eye on them, busy having their little wrestling matches over there in the corner. And again, the younger one is either being picked on quite heavily or is instigating the matter entirely. And that one mom is trying very hard to show everybody, hey, listen, behave, and possibly engaging in a little bit of play herself. Yes, that tiny one is super cute. I'm sorry. Hippos do something called porpoising, so where they jump out of the water like a porpoise. And sometimes with this little one, you can see a bit of that porpoising action happening. There's mom just checking and protecting. showing her size. Are busy picking the ticks that they collect as they meander off into the bush to get their food during the evening. Sorry, please excuse all my ums today. I don't know what's going on with my speech patterns. Now, eventually, these three will tire out, and eventually the mums will get out and go for food. Or Diane, that's very interesting. Was it on land, physically on land, like away from the water, or was it just on the edge of the water? So Diane was saying, oh, sorry. Sorry, Nikki. I sometimes forget. I don't know what's going on with me today. Diane, you were just saying that on the Aretusa cam, when it was still working, you saw a hippo born on land. And my question to Diane was it physically like away from any water, or was it just on the edge of the water? Because what you'll see sometimes is just on the edge of the water, they'll go and then give birth right there, but they're not fully away from the water. Remember, they are aquatic mammals, and the water is their safe spot. So when we say that they give birth in the water or give birth on land, the on land, I'll be more specific now, the on land part is they're not going to move a kilometer away from water necessarily, according to what we know. Remember that the things can change, but according to what we know, to give birth, they need that water around them. So the small little baby that's here, there's a spot that's across the dam where the mom went into the shallows and gave birth there, just at the edge, but that's still. All these post sounds, and you're right. It is always near the water. We saw it come out of a little hole in the bank of this island, and we were considering maybe if that is a little nesting area. It could have also just been taking refuge there or looking for something to eat. But what a wonderful view of that black crake. They're usually very quick and very difficult to get on camera for you because of how quick they move, and they also very much enjoy being in the thickets as well. We also had another view of some of the terns, and I was trying to decide if it was a white-whiskered tern or possibly a non-breeding white-whiskered tern or possibly a white-winged tern, but the crake chased it off. So if I see the terns again and they're a little bit closer than they were this morning, I'll definitely try and show them to you as well. Great stuff. If you're birders and want to take a screenshot, we've had a nice few visuals of this black crake, but I think maybe let's go back to that little baby hippo because he's being super cute. Diane, that makes a lot of sense what you're saying there. You're saying it was on the island in the dam at Aretusa, so it's still I hear what you're saying. So basically, when hippos give birth, as far as we know, they sometimes give birth underwater, and sometimes they're going to be around amidst in the water, but they're not going to remove themselves completely away from the water where they can't get back into the water quickly. So Diane, obviously that hippo where it gave birth on that island in the water is a comfortable spot. It had moved away. There could have also been crocodiles in there, but there you go. And remember as well, the animals don't read the books, but again, a safe spot for a hippo is the water. So with something as treacherous as a birth, they are going to be as close as possible. I'm sorry, that's too cute. That's way too funny. All right, well, our hippos are giving us quite a show. Oh, see, Mom's angry now. See, that was too much. That was way too much with that little one. So she's chasing them off. She's saying, everyone calm down. I think what we're going to do, we've had some really great action with these little hippos. We got that amazing black crake. We've had some good discussions. I think we're going to try and carry on from Chitwa Dam and see what else we can find lurking about. And you all are going to stick around with me as we do this. I'm just putting my bird book away. And let's see what happens. Ooh, sorry, we've got to, oh no, don't go away. We just had some really wonderful birds that came down. Here we go. Here they're running just on the shore. They look like green shanks. Here we are, popping, come up a little bit. There we go. Beautiful green shanks. I know it was a very quick view, but that could be another shorebird possibly to tick off on your 2017 list or possibly your lifer list, depending. There they fly off. Thanks, Ferg. As always, excellent camera work. All right, everybody. Well, I would like to know what everyone has been up to today, the day after Christmas, on Boxing Day, and how everyone's holidays are going and what your plans are for the new year. Is anyone traveling? Any special surprises for anyone out there? And also, if there's anything you would like me to try and look for from here on out. Ferg and I were chatting earlier about how Hassana has a little obsession with Ting Gana, so we're actually hoping, because Ting Gana is not far from here, that Hassana will pop up. You never know. So we'll take a quick look around and do that. And don't forget, for anyone that's new, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can follow us on YouTube chat. And we are interactive, and we are live, coming to you from the Sabi Sands in South Africa. And currently we're at Chitwa Dam in front of Chitwa Lodge. This is actually, for those of you that watch the show often, this is where I met Tristan for the first time, and this is where I met Sebastian for the first time about 7 years ago. We all did a little bit of work together. Seb was with Wild Earth, and Tristan was the head guide here at Chitwa, and Seb's wife was the manager of Chitwa, and I came in and did some freelance. So we've been in and out of each other's lives for quite a while now, the four of us. Madeline, you would like to know about how to spell the black crake. So it's C-R-A-K-E. Sorry about that. I know that my C's and G's are very interchangeable, so I hope that helps. C-R-A-K-E. Black crake. All right, we're just checking. There's little spots down around in here that Hassana tends to like. And just keeping an eye out as we drive across. Maybe even Kachava shows up. You never know. All right, so Scotty's gremlins have moved away, so let's head on over to him, and hopefully he finds something while he's bumbling around.
Yes, I really do hope we find something. It's been a fairly bleak afternoon on this vehicle, but that could change at any moment, and I'm hoping it does. Sheesh, I don't know when last you were with us, but basically since you've been gone, we've been driving around in large circular motions, and we did pop into Tandi's den site. She wasn't there, so we headed up towards Buffelshoek Dam. Haven't found any kind of action along the way, but thankfully the rest of the crew have managed to keep you guys entertained, and it sounds like those hippos were providing you with some good action. Those young hippos playing with Noel at the dam. So yeah, not too much to report other than what I've just said, really. I think we're going to try and pop into the den site one more time before the end of the safari. So I'm thinking with about 20 minutes left or so, we'll pop in and see if Tandi hasn't returned, which hopefully she has. Ideally, we'll find her on her way back there now, and we can just follow her in. That would be first prize, or I'll tell you what would actually be first prize, if we found where her kill was, if she has one. And that way we can know if she's either at the den or at the kill, and we can check both places for the next couple of days. So that would be first prize. But the radio waves have been fairly quiet. There's not too many people traversing Djuma at the moment. Most people are elsewhere where there's other animals. So we've kind of got the place to ourselves. Okay, I'm told you guys have been chatting about what you guys are doing on Boxing Day. And Caitlin, you've already got back to Noel, and all of us, I guess, saying that you'll be going to Tembe Elephant Park tomorrow. And you'd like to know a little bit about the place in terms of our opinions. I don't have a clue. I don't even know where it is, to be honest. So sadly I'm not going to be able to help you. Maybe Noel knows a little bit more about it. Is it in Natal? I've got a feeling that it's somewhere in kind of northern Natal, but I'm not clearly not the man to be asking. Okay, Noel seems to think it's somewhere up near Mozambique, and if that is the case, I have heard, I don't know much about it, but all I know is that there are some elephants there. If I remember correctly, it's very thick because it is quite close to the coast. But again, clearly both Noel and I aren't experts on that little park, or big park, or not too sure how big or small it is. But Caitlin, we do hope you have a good time, and what you can do is you can let us all know what it's like once you've finished your safari there. I think quite a few people go through it on the way up into Mozambique, if I'm not mistaken. Well, that's exciting stuff that you're heading out on safari, and Caitlin, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are envious of you. I'll also be going on safari on Boxing Day. Okay, well, Susie will be working on Boxing Day, but thankfully she will have us to keep her distracted. And you're hoping for quarantine, or a beautiful male leopard, or some cheetah. That'll make your Boxing Day. You'll have to ask Ralph and Taylor for cheetah. Quarantine, you'll have to ask him personally to come onto Djuma, because he hasn't been here for a while, and I've heard some reports, I'm not sure where he is, but last I heard he was quite far east of us, sadly. Any kind of a reptile, that will be more doable, so hopefully we will be able to rustle up a reptile. That will probably be the most likely of your 3 requests, Susie. That was requests with a W, not with an R, if any of you missed that. Okay, what's the time? Okay, we've got another 25 minutes before I think it would make sense for us to pop into the den site. So I'm just going to kind of plan a route that will take us through some areas where, who knows, maybe we'll be able to bump into Shadow, another leopard who's lurking in this general area. Her and Tandi are sisters, if any of you are first-time viewers. So what's quite interesting is that the 2 leopard we are hoping on finding now were both born to the same female in the same litter 11 years ago. That female has disappeared very recently, about 4 or 5 months ago. We presume that she's dead. She might not be. And either way, she's no longer here, and what that means is that her whole territory has now opened up, and her 2 daughters have moved into it, and they're kind of trying to work out how to divvy up Mom's old house. And I haven't quite got to the bottom of that yet. PT Watcher, you're wondering if there's any chance that Tandi will take the cub to areas where we do not traverse. Yes, there's a high likelihood that she will do that as soon as that cub is 3 months of age. So it'll be a lot more tricky for us to keep close tabs on it. I'm hoping it's not the case, but it's very, very possible from what I've been told when I was chatting to Tristan about this very topic. He seems to be confident that that she used to, and therefore will still spend time to the east of us on a property called Torchwood, and also to the south of us on a property called Little Gowrie, both of which we cannot go on. So yes, that is a reality, unfortunately. But, you know, she'll come and go. She's not going to disappear. She may just disappear for a week or two and then come back. Ah, well, Cluck, you guys are good at planning in advance, far better than me. I find it one of my greatest weaknesses, planning in general, really. And you've already got your safari booked for next year. And you will be on safari in the Kruger National Park doing a self-drive trip for 2 weeks, and that will fall over Boxing Day. Well, you're in for a treat, Clark, that's for certain, because the self-drive safaris really are a lot of fun, and 2 weeks in the Kruger National Park is going to give you a lot of time to not only see a whole bunch of animals, hopefully, but also the incredibly diverse terrain and vegetation that you can find throughout the park. Have you planned which rest camps and everything you're staying at yet? Clark, let us know. I'd be interested to know what your kind of itinerary is for your 2 weeks in the Kruger, and then I can give you a little bit of insight into what to expect in those areas if you have in fact chosen them. Wonderful. Well, we're going to continue bumbling about in the hope of finding anything of interest, and while we do that, we shall be sending you back to Noel.
I'm super excited. We managed to get a parrot on screen for all of you. So I hear them and then they fly away, and then it's just so difficult to be able to get them. So this is looking like a brown-headed parrot. I know that the brown is hard to see, but notice how there's no yellow on the shoulder. If there was yellow on the shoulder and yellow a little bit on the head, it would be a mayor's parrot, which we technically don't get here, but every now and then we'll push this far. So it's really just the brown-headed parrot. I think I'm having a little bit of a Sassel moment there. We should just be getting the brown-headed parrot. Farther north from us, we'll get a gray-headed parrot. Now this parrot is busy eating fruits off of that marula tree there. Absolutely fantastic. Now, in answer to my question about what is everybody up to over the holidays, we had, I believe it was Caitlin, who is going to Tembe Elephant Park. Tomorrow she's heading there, and she was wondering what I thought about it. It's actually, Caitlin's one of the ones that I haven't been to yet, and I've desperately been wanting to go. I've heard that the game viewing can be really great, or it can be a little bit of a struggle, but that happens anywhere. My friends who have been, and past guests who have been, have all really loved it, so I'm assuming you're also going to love it, and the elephant sightings are supposed to be out of this world. So good luck with that. There's also some really large tuskers that are there, so I hope you enjoy. Maybe take a few photos for us and send them through. I would love to see them. And then let me know what you think when you get back, and then I will see if it's going to be on my immediate itinerary for something to do on leave, or if I push it farther down the list. There's a few places in South Africa I still haven't been that I'd like to get to. That's one of them. Addo Elephant Park is another one. Look how well that parrot blends in. Okay, Paula, we're going to go through again, zoom in a little bit, and see if we can get you to see it. There we go, Ferg, up a little bit. There it is. So, Paula, right in the middle of the screen, just there. Sorry, it's a bit far, so this is as far as our zoom can go. Can you see the bright, bright green part that's near those little fruits, and then the gray head on top? It's sort of dead center and a little bit up and to the left. I'm hoping you can see it there. We'll hold this shot as best as we can. I wanted to try and get a little bit closer, but one, they fly away, and then two, we have our roof on, so because it's farther up in the tree, I actually have to park a little bit farther back. Now, hopefully it'll ruffle its feathers and move around, Paula, so that you can see it a bit better, but I'm hoping you're getting it now there, just in the middle there. It scratches its head, and there it's moving a little bit. Hopefully it'll start eating some of those fruits for us. There, it turned around its body, trying to hang on in the wind there. And maybe, just maybe, there's a couple of fruits around its head it might start eating. Yay! All right, Paula, you got him. Fantastic. Thanks, Ferg. Another place I'd really like to go is I'd like to go in the springtime, our springtime, and go to the Namakuru and see the flower blooms that happen there. I haven't done that. I also haven't just been to the Karoo area not Namakuru, Namakwaland. To Namakwaland to see the flower blooms there, and then I haven't been to the Karoo at all. I've got a very good friend who has a family farm there, and I would love to go to the Karoo. I haven't seen springbok in a long time, so go and see some springbokkies, which is our national mammal. So this morning we talked about our national bird, which is the blue crake, and then our national mammal is the springbok, and then our national tree is the real yellowwood. And our national flower is the king protea. And then our national fish, I always forget the fish. It has a very long name. It's black something. Say again? A halyun. Thank you, Nikki. Nikki, well done. 5 points for Nikki. Halyun. Is that what you said, Ferg? Yeah. Ferg also said halyun. So points to Ferg and to Nikki.
Nikki takes them all. I didn't say that.
Ferg's teasing me now. All right, so there we go. Now, if you are coming to us from other countries other than South Africa, I'd be interested to know if you know either what your national bird, flower, mammal, or tree is, or if you're coming to us from the States. I know each state has its own one, so more than welcome to share those. And we'll see what everybody comes up with. So we were tracking some elephants just now, but it looks like they've moved away from where we can drive, unfortunately. Gavin, you're doing Cozy Bay and Kalahari. I am so jealous you're going to the Kalahari. That is such a stunning, stunning, stunning area. I'm assuming you're going to be self-driving through. I love self-driving in Botswana. I love camping. One of my favorite places is Naipans. I never pronounce that correctly, but Nxai, Naipans, and Mkharihari Pans I love. And then a couple years ago, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago now, we went up to the Kalahari, so the Kalahari Transfrontier Park. They're up near Ograbi's Falls that fits within South Africa, as you would know, and then into Botswana as well. We went in February when it's super hot and it rained a little bit, and we had the most incredible predator game viewing as well as bird game viewing. It was just out of this world. We were there for 8 nights. Mata Mata is now my favorite rest camp of any of the sand parks. So if anyone doesn't know what a sand parks is, it's a South African national park, and then that would be something like Kruger National Park and the KTP as well, which is also technically a Transfrontier Park. So Transfrontier Park is any park in Southern Africa that has several countries within the park. Yes, and then the Kalahari, I'm assuming you're going to the Central Kalahari, but you must let me know, Gavin. And just absolutely stunning. I'm super excited for you. I hope you get lots of cheetah sightings, maybe cheetah hunting gemsbok. For those of you that don't know what a gemsbok is, or an oryx, while I'm looking for this gemsbok, let's quickly go to Scott, because Scott has found you something. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to show it to you, and then when you get back to us, I'll show you what a gemsbok is.
Yes, finally we found some life, and it's a herd of elephants with a fork-tailed drongo following them about. There goes the drongo, and it's a very clever bird. It's following them with the knowledge that they will chase up little insects and then it'll fly down and catch them. So we've just come across the herd. We're not too sure how many ellies are in it or exactly what's going on here. They sadly are moving into a very, very thick area, which is going to be near impossible for us to follow them, sadly. You may have heard a go-away bird in the background there, if any of you are wondering what that was. It's always difficult for us to know whether you can hear what we are hearing, but always good just to check in with you guys. Sometimes, of course, you do. And I'm told you can hear some Franklin calling. Very good. There have been quite a lot of ellies around at the moment, which is wonderful. They do come and go. and hopefully more will come in the future. Bill, you are wondering if any of the fruits are dropping from the trees yet. Not quite, and that's definitely going to make for some wonderful elephant viewing, especially the marula fruits. That's probably their favorite fruit that we get here. And you sometimes see herds of elephant literally running from tree to tree, trying to beat their companions to the bounty that lies below it. For some of the big elephants, not only the bulls but also the cows, they'll also use their head to shake the tree and try and get a few more fruits to fall down. And I cannot wait for that to start happening. It's usually more in January/February, if my memory serves me correctly, that they begin to start ripening. Last time before, well, the last marula season that I was involved in, we actually also made some marula jam, which was really tasty. So looking forward to doing that again. Maybe we'll try and make a batch of marula beer. See what other marula-y things we can make. It's a very healthy fruit, lots of vitamin C in it. So, oh, there's the go-away bird. Well spotted, Senzo. So that could well be the bird that we heard calling a bit earlier. At this time of the year, they also enjoy eating fruits. And what tree is it in there? They love the white berries from the white berry bush. I'm not sure if it's eating that. They also like the fruits from the jackalberry trees. Marulas, not so much. You know, it looks like that could be a white berry bush that it's scoffing on. I can't be certain from here, though. But you can definitely see it is chomping away. Wonderful. Well, it seems like the ellies have all disappeared, so I think what we should do is continue on to the waterhole, which is just up ahead of us, to see what's going on. Okay, well, I'm loving hearing all your holiday plans, guys. We've just got a message through from Laura, who's booked to come and stay here at Djuma. There's two camps at Djuma, one called Galago and one called Vuyatela. I think Laura said she's going to be staying at Galago camp. They're both very similar. And the interesting thing about it is that you have to rent the camps out as an entirety. So you pay a fixed fee, and whether you bring 2 people or 10 people, it's the same price. And it's a really good deal, to be honest. I think it's one of the best deals in the Sabi Sands. And the guides are great. The traverse that you have access to is really wonderful. So it's definitely something worth looking into if you're ever planning a safari here, to come and stay at either of the Djuma lodges. I can vouch for them. And not only is Laura going to spend some time here in Djuma, but she's got a 2-week road trip through the Kruger Park afterwards. So you're in for a treat, Laura. An absolute treat. And sadly, I don't think I'm going to be around when you come. I think I'll be back up in the Mara. But there definitely will be some people here to show you around our camp and everything. So that's also something that you have to look forward to, meeting which... Oh yeah, there's some ellies at the waterhole. Bobby, you'd like to know, what does marula beer taste like? Jeez, I'm going to battle to describe it, and I also haven't had any for quite a while. But it's quite sour. Often you kind of mix a bit of lemonade into it. And it's just the marula fruit that's brewed and fermented with yeast. So it's not very hoppy, which was one of your questions. It's kind of like almost a soury, fruity kind of flavor. It can put you on your back, depending on how long it's been brewed for. That I'll tell you for free. I also remember getting somewhat inebriated up in Kenya when some of the local villagers invited me to their manyata, which is their kind of homestead, and we drank a local beer that was made from the roots of a tree. It was difficult to get home that night because we had walked about 4 kilometers from our camp to get there. Oh, I guess the thing is with any local brews or homemade brews, you never know exactly how strong they are unless, of course, you're a pro at making them. It's a lot safer to know what you're dealing with the stuff off the shelves. But I guess that's what makes it exciting. So now I'm guessing these two young boys are just kind of lagging behind their herd. I'm guessing they will try and catch up with the rest of the herd a little bit later. But for now, they're just enjoying some time sparring at the waterhole. Quite a well-matched little tusser little bee, because they look like they're twins. They look like they're exactly the same size, just about. It's unlikely they are twins. Sadly, twins aren't very common in nature. But it does happen from time to time. I'm not sure when last a birth of wild elephant twins was documented. Are they getting ready for another clash? No, they're just taking it easy. I've actually never seen big bull elephants having a proper go at one another. That must be a spectacle to behold. And to be honest, we very seldomly see any of the animals having really big fights with one another, so I think us humans could take a lot of pages out of the wild animals books. It's not to say they don't have arguments or disagreements or problems that need solving, but they usually are less violent when it comes, or at least to comparing them to us. Seems like the one does have the upper hand though, because the one's kind of permanently in reverse. Now it's given up. Well, I wonder where they are going. Maybe they aren't going to be following that herd, because if they were, they'd be heading in the opposite direction. Okay, well, I think we're going to leave these guys do their business and start slowly making our way back towards Tundi's den. I almost forgot about my kind of plan. Well, I didn't forget about my plan, I just lost track of time. And it's almost 20 minutes left to the end of the safari, so I want to try and make sure that if in fact Tundi is there, we are going to have some time to enjoy spending with her and her little youngster. Very good. Well, you'll be glad to know not only am I heading off in search of a leopard, but so is Noel. Ba-ba-ba-da.
Hello! Alright, so the other vehicles have made their way through that sighting of Ting Gana, and he hasn't moved very far, so we're making our way back. We thought that you would like to have a bit more of a view of him, even if he is a lazy flat cat at the moment. He's still a leopard, and he's beautiful, and we like him very much, so we're heading over to that side. Now, I believe a bunch of you have sent through answers to state mammals and national mammals and things. All right, Dale, you said that the state bird was the American robin for Michigan. And then, I'm sorry, Nix, I missed the mammal was a type of deer for Michigan? White-tailed deer, that would make a lot of sense. Thank you, Dale. White-tailed deer and the American robin as the state mammal and state bird for Michigan. That's fantastic. So, Jared from Arizona, you said that the state flower for Arizona is a cactus, and then the bird was a type of wren, but I'm not quite sure. My comms are being silly. I'm not quite sure what that was. A cactus wren. Oh, so it's your state flower is cactus. Oh, do you know what kind of cactus, Nikki? Did they say? Just out of curiosity. We'll have to see if I'm pronouncing this correctly, a saguaro, possibly pronouncing correctly, possibly not, saguaro cactus, and then a cactus wren. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sending that through. The reason why I'm curious what type of cactus is we actually get alien invasives here that are cactuses. So we get prickly pear cactus, and we get queen of the night, if I'm remembering correctly, cactus that came in on accident with horse and cattle feed that was brought in from South America and southern parts of the States. So that's why I always like to know. Cactuses only naturally occur in southern parts of North America and in South America. So when they start popping up in other areas, they were brought over somehow. And I find them very interesting plants. They're so well adapted. We in South Africa get quite a few plants in arid areas that are extremely well adapted, and you just get that little bit of rain, and then all of a sudden there's flowering. I was talking about the Kalahari Transfrontier Park earlier, and that's very arid. It's into the desert, similar to the Kalahari where Gavin's gonna go. Oh, Jared, you say the flower is called the saguaro. Okay, the flower is called the saguaro. Thank you very much for correcting us on that one. It's much appreciated. Okay, so here we are back towards Ting Gana. So, James and Ashley, you say for New York, and I'm assuming you mean New York State. The flower is the rose, and the bird is the bluebird, if I got that correct, Nikki. Oh, here's our boy.
Scotland, the national animal is the unicorn.
Say again, Ferg?
Scotland, the national animal is the unicorn.
Ferg says in Scotland the national animal is the unicorn. Oh, Ferg, I love you. You make me laugh so hard. All right. Is that okay for you? Or you want... We can just move through here. Ferg, you make me laugh so hard. I'm just going to pull in. And then here we go. Our beautiful Ting Gana, who has moved only several centimeters, sort of mixed its way around. Ah, the unicorn. Oh my goodness gracious. His belly, you can see his belly a lot better now. He's definitely eaten something. He's got a fat little belly sticking out there. One of the reasons why he's probably still resting here, although we were hopeful that he would start moving around, and the rain that we thought was coming went away. So I'm glad for Game Drive that the rain went away. I'm not glad for the bush that the rain went away. We do need some rain quite badly. Well, not quite badly, but we need some rain, that's for sure. Now, we were talking about the hind paws before there. You can see the front paw nicely, and you can see what we were talking about earlier in the show, where it is more round and width and length are the same, as opposed to that back paw that we saw earlier, where it is longer than it is wide. Beautiful. There's the 3 lobes on the bottom pad, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. And notice how you can't see any claws protracting. That's because they only bring them out when they really need them, either in very slippery surfaces or mostly when they're hunting. And when those claws do come out, they get stuck into whatever they're hunting and helps them bring down their prey. Lions would be the same, as opposed to a cheetah, whose claws are always protracted. And that's so that they can get to their top speeds very quickly. So a leopard's speed would be over 100 meters, so about 100 yards. It would be 90 kilometers an hour. That's about 23 meters a second, so roughly 23 yards a second. It's quite quick. And then a lion would be about 22.1 meters or 22.1 yards a second roughly, and that's about 80 kilometers an hour. And then the cheetah does 120 kilometers an hour. And now the lion and the leopard, as I was saying, they can only do that for about 100 meters, about 100 yards, because they stalk and they're just much larger animals. The cheetah has developed a special brain casing, so they can do the 120 kilometers an hour for up to and sometimes over a kilometer. And that brain casing allows it so that they don't overheat. Now, one of the reasons why Ting Gana is resting the way that he is sometimes when they're very full like this. Think about when you eat, as a human, when you eat too much, your body temperature rises, and it's your body trying to process all the food you've stuck in. So his body's doing the same thing. He's trying to process all of that meat, and he's going to be slightly warmer than normal. So if he wanted to move, it is nice and cool, and he would definitely not be as uncomfortable as opposed to yesterday, which was scorching hot and quite humid. At least he's twitching for you. All right, now Scott is ever hopeful that Madame Tandy will present herself with her cute little cub. So let's head on over to him and see what sort of an update he has in regard to that.
Well, we thought we would invite you in. Hopefully, if you guys are on board, we'll have a little bit more luck than the previous 2 attempts when we've come in here this afternoon and not found any sign of the mother leopard called Tandy. Now, we've got a little bit further to go, and then hopefully we will see some spots. So, there's the kind of fallen down tree over there, and there's no immediate sign of her there. Now the cub could be tucked away in those roots, and even if we were to see it without Mom here, we shouldn't spend too much time here. That's kind of the general rule, and it doesn't look promising. So just like Ting Gana's been relaxing all day, possibly so is Tandy, one of his girlfriends. Maybe she's just been taking it nice and easy. Hopefully she's got a kill somewhere stashed away, but she doesn't appear to be here. So that means we need to head off and hope that we get lucky tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day, last time I checked, so that is the good news. Maybe let's just double check, just make 100% sure that she's not hidden around a corner. I'm fairly confident she isn't, but let's just make 100% sure. She used to stash the cub off to our left. That was the initial spot or at least I saw it. And I have been checking there as well. The tricky thing with that spot though is if she is in there, there's like a full-on cave that she can disappear into. Yeah. No sign of anything here, and we are quite close to the den here, so I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to keep moving. You're just going to have to take my word for it. But it's usually in that cavity that the little cub usually pokes its head out of. Now, Joy, you've mentioned that last time she had a kill at the den, she moved it. Well, we assume she moved it, and she didn't move it very far. From where she had the first kill to here is like 30 meters, so it's not really a logical maneuver on her behalf, because the scent, whether it's there or here, it's so close to where the cub is that I'm not convinced that she would have thought, okay, now that I've brought a kill, let me move the den again. I think if she was capable of thinking like that, she would not take the kill back to the den in the first place and just avoid that whole saga. Because it must be said, it's not easy to find den sites. There's only so many good spots to stash a cub out here. Paul, are you wondering how long Tandy will leave the cub alone for? And I would say at least 12 hours. It's not uncommon for her to do that. Possibly more if need be, but I haven't been able to stake out a leopard den and spent huge amounts of time at a leopard den in my career, so I've got very limited information on that from a first-hand account. But I think anything longer than 12 hours, especially when they're very young, is unlikely. Alrighty. Philip, you're wanting to know a little bit more about the dominant male leopards that kind of surround, or big male leopards that surround Ting Gana's territory. You've mentioned that there's Gijima to the north, Quarantine to the east, I think Anderson's to the west, but who is to the south? I am not too sure. Yeah, not too sure, sadly, Phil. I'm guessing there's, I wonder how many dominant male leopards are in the Sabi Sands at the moment. That would be another interesting thing to know, but I'm not too clued up on that. I think Kunyuma is spending quite a lot of time kind of to the south of us. Not that he's dominant yet. I think maybe Quarantine is acting a little bit more dominant than Kunyuma, but I don't know. So yeah, sorry, can't help you there, Phil. Well, let's hope this gloomy weather actually brings us some rain at some point in time, rather than just being gloomy the whole day. Who knows, maybe tonight we'll get some much needed rain. But very good. Well, we're going to continue to mosey about. Maybe, just maybe, Tundi will poke her head out at the last minute. I'm hoping she does. But for now, rest assured, you don't have to wait for her. You can go straight back to Ting Gana and Noel.
Scotty D, I'm so sorry Tundi is not being nice to you. I think maybe we used up all of our leopard energy on Christmas, but I do hope she is the last minute leopard for us today. But it is true, we do have Ting Gana. Just excuse the vehicle noise over to the side. The vehicle you've just run into is actually a friend of mine that I used to work with on another property, and I came into the sighting, and as we went off, I was like, oh my goodness gracious, what are you doing here? He's also just moved into this area and enjoying himself. They've opened a brand new camp, and his guests are having a fabulous time watching Ting Gana here. Thank you, sir, for picking up your head. That's exactly what we wanted. Beautiful. There we go, everybody. Nice blue tinged eyes there. And now, because my friend Murray has moved off, we are going to just meander in a little bit. So if you would just excuse me for starting up the vehicle and moving us around just so that we get a little bit of a different view. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come around, and then I'm going to put the front of the vehicle towards where Ting Gana is. It's probably one of the easiest ways of accessing a good look for you all when we have the roof on. Just a little bit of a reversing there, and absolutely stunning. There we go. Thanks for biding your time with me as I do that. Sorry for the back of my head. Gorgeous. Now we can see him in all his splendor and glory. Yes, he is indeed, Nikki. He is a nice big cat. Ting Gana is a big male. Not the biggest male I've ever seen, but he is a decent sized male. And he's been resting with his tongue hanging out like that for most of the time we've been seeing him as well. It's been cracking me up. I'm enjoying the contrast with his little pillow of a termite mound there, and the slate gray sky in the back is giving those green tinges quite a dark color. Bad Andy, you're saying Ting Gana is a beast. Yeah, he's a beast. He's a big boy. Look at that fat belly. I mean, you can see it really nicely there. Oh, thank you, and for picking your head up, and not for too long. We just have our friends from Juma have just come and joined us again. They also wanted a second look at Ting Gana because no one can ever get enough of this beautiful leopard. He really has managed to find himself a pillow. This is hysterical. Mary, you're saying you are enjoying that cute little tongue as well. Yeah, I don't know if we can call Ting Gana cute, but I think we can go with cute tongue. What'd you say, Ferg?
He's a cute man.
He is. Ferg says yes, he is cute. Half eye open, ear always twitching. It's interesting, when cats are sleeping, they're not necessarily fully asleep. I have seen cats go into that sort of REM sleep, the dream, where they're, running around and moving their legs a little bit. But in general, I've seen that more with lions, particularly big male lions. With leopards, you tend to see a bit more awareness, not just because they're of the apex predator, they're a bit smaller than a lion, and they're aware of it. They're also very aware of the fact that they can eat multiple different creatures that are moving around. We've talked about it before, but for anyone that's new with us, sort of from scorpions to baby mice, up through impala and warthog, nyalas, kudus, and then even up into sort of small baby-sized giraffe. So they're constantly, even though he's full like this, he might still do a bit of hunting, and it is impala lambing season and wildebeest calving season, so there's lots of tasty morsels around. Now, as I'm talking about antelope species, I remembered that I promised to show you what a gemsbok was. So I've got my mammal book here for you to have a look at gemsbok. We don't, bless you, Ferg, bless you. We don't see gemsbok this side. They tend to be in more arid areas, although that being said, I have seen one a little bit north from here. So very long, straight horns, and quite a grayish body with these black markings and then white on the face. So in sub-Saharan Africa, this is the gemsbok we get. I know in northern Africa they've got a different species of gemsbok whose name is escaping me now, but you all have access to different safari browsers, so I'm sure there's someone out there who can quickly answer that question as my brain freezes. Now, gemsbok are really interesting because of the arid areas that they live in. They can go their whole lives without drinking water. They can get all the moisture they need just from eating plants at certain times of the day. Now, I have seen them drink water, but they don't have to drink water. And this markings that they've got on the face here. So we sometimes talk about when giraffes drink, they put their head down, and there's a special valve system called the retete mirabile. It shuts off the blood flow to the brain so that when they lift their head back up, they don't get a head rush and fall over. Now, the retete mirabile that works with the gemsbok helps circulate the hot blood and cool the blood down so that their brain doesn't overheat in the hot conditions in which they are. So, Gavin, hopefully you'll see some gemsbok on your trip to the Kalahari. Now, I believe Scotty D has another antelope species that he would like to show you, so let's head on over to him and see what's going on.
Gemsbok are really impressive antelopes, so that's something to look forward to. And another thing to look forward to are these impala. I'm just trying to get in position. They're very vocal, and I'm hoping they continue to make their funny burping noises. There's one female in specific, the one on the far right here, who's shouting a lot. She's a bit of a gossiper. What a bizarre noise. And this is how they all communicate. Just burping at one another. She's stopped now, she's got a bit camera shy. But there is a massive herd of impala all dotted through this very large open clearing. And it seems like they're all getting the mad sprints now. A little bit of excitement before the evening. And now you've got a better idea of just how many there are. Impala everywhere. And there's also one zebra on the scene who's been lurking about. We don't get many zebra here, so nice to see him. Where's he gone? Oh, he's right behind the tree. Isn't that a wonderful view of a zebra? Let's reposition quickly. haven't seen the resident wildebeest herd today. Did we see them yesterday? It all kind of just blends into one big safari for me, to be honest. So I'm hoping that our resident herd of wildebeest are all doing okay. So far they haven't lost any of their youngsters, which is great news. What's going on with this impala's right eye? Is it working? Yeah, it looks fine. I seem to think it was a little bit darker than normal, and I thought he was actually missing his entire eye. He's got a bit of a raggedy ear, but certainly no issues with his eyes. So he's all right. Wonderful stuff, guys. Oh, it looks like he's chasing off a young male, so that's our way he disappeared out of screen so quickly. But thanks, guys, for joining in on the safari. We're going to say goodbye for now and send you across to Noel for the end of the safari. See you tomorrow.
So for the last little bit that we have with our safari this evening, we are just going to stick here with Ting Gana. He has managed to stick his head behind the termites. We can't really see it. It looks like a little bit like a headless leopard. He is still alive. You can see him breathing. That nice little golden light that you see appearing on him is the spotlight from the fellow vehicle that is with us, and he is perfectly able to spotlight this, as it is a nocturnal creature who can see at night and during the day. Annie, you're curious to know, does the rain ever bother the leopards, or do they enjoy it? Annie, this tiny little bit of drizzle isn't going to bother anybody. The downpours have a tendency to bother the cats more. But what you'll notice, especially if you've seen other shows with us, is downpours here in the sands, the cats tend to hide a bit more. But then up in the Mara, where Taylor and Ralph are, when it starts to downpour, because it's such a more open ecosystem and they get those big rains and little rains throughout the season, that you tend to see a bit more cat movement in those downpours. So those are just regional variations within the species that happen, obviously just getting used to their different ecosystems. So he'll be fine for now, but if it really starts coming down, he's going to find a little bush to hide underneath. Arishi, you're curious to know if Ting Gana is risking himself for an attack by sleeping in the open. Arishi, because he's not fully asleep, he's just resting. No, not necessarily, but I mean, the wind is gusting. It's possible that something like a lion could sneak up on him. It does happen. Nothing is impervious to the workings of Mother Nature, and we all can't live forever, leopards and lions and humans and everything else included. So in general, I'm going to say no, he is pretty aware, but you know, today could be the day. And from the other side of the termite mound, I can't see anything, so anything could happen. The bush is sneaky like that. Well, life in general is sneaky like that. Good questions, guys. Keep them coming. We only have a little bit of time left. Let's see if we can squeeze in a few more questions on our interactive safari with Safari Live. Don't forget, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send through on the YouTube chat. Oh my goodness, and as I say that, we only have a minute left with all of you. So let's have a beautiful look at these paws. First Lady, you're curious to know if Ting Gana has ever killed a leopard. I would assume in his 10 to 12 years he has, but I can't answer that for definite. I don't know if we've caught anything live on camera before with him with any sort of crazy interaction like that. Most of the interactions I've heard about with him have been, I wouldn't say peaceful, but have been more understanding. But it would be interesting to know. I'm sure when Tristan's back from leave, he'll definitely have an idea if Ting Gana has killed any other leopards along the way. So everybody, here we go, our last little view of our rosetted beautiful boy Ting Gana. It would be nice if he decides to lift up his head. Oop, there we go. Thank you, Ting Gana. Thank you all very much from all of us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your Boxing Day. We'll see you tomorrow.